Sound check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sound check. What's going on, everybody? As you can see, bare bones here with the sit rep. I don't know how many folks we got in here yet, and I'm not even going to pay attention to how many folks we got in here yet. We don't have a lot. I know that. Welcome to American Legionnaire podcast. The Intel sit rep I was working on before I ran out of time, so I'm going to record that later, and then I'll post that up for everybody to watch. Got a lot of data that I need to cover in that. A lot of things happening in our world right now, guys. A lot of good and a lot of not so good. I like to open up every podcast, and I'm probably going to open up every sit rep as well with a few passages from the Holy Bible, King James Version. Not everybody here is a Christian. That doesn't matter. We're all brothers. And whether you believe in Buddha or Muhammad or Christ Almighty, we're still brothers one way or the other. Unless you're a Democrat, for all our liberal friends out there who hate God and hate the Bible and hate everything about this country, you're probably not going to agree with anything in this podcast. You'll probably disagree with 99% of what I say, and the other guys here that are guests and my co-host. Intrepid will be here a little while later. It's roughly about 5 till the top of the hour, 1900 Mountain Standard Time. He may not be here until about 2000 to 2030. So he will jump in as soon as he gets here. He's probably up in an airplane, buzzing around upside down right now. Well, at least I hope he is. He's having a lot of fun, and that's what being at work and doing work is all about, having fun. All right, so it is Thursday, the 1st of September, 2022, and again, about 5 till 1900. We're a little late starting today. Unfortunately, that happens. For those that have been around our podcast for a minute, you understand that sometimes we run a little behind until we get an actual concrete schedule and some tech support, and have a better way of setting this up where it doesn't take 2 hours to literally set up for a podcast. Then it'll be on time every time, like Dan Bonzino and the rest of the big dogs out there. Someday we'll be there, but we're not there yet. Don't give up on us. I am Abraham, the gentleman that posts a lot in the Discord channel and the Patreon. I'm kind of the one that's keeps overwatch on all of that, make sure that what gets posted, gets signed off on. I don't want bad information being posted out there. So I kind of take the lead on that, make sure that the information that we put out there is verified and confirmed before we do it. Discord is an option for Intel drops. We do a lot of document drops in that Discord server of ours. I'm not going to put the Discord server address out publicly, so it's not going to be posted up here on our podcast, guys. If you join the Patreon, that takes a few minutes to just sign up. It's $5 a month. Once you sign up to the Patreon, we kind of do our little thing on our end and kind of see what your activity is online, your social media, kind of who you are. We don't want any Yahoo jumping in there and into our Discord and causing a ruckus. As well, we have some journalists that come here from some of the major news media. They've been on with us on Patreon for over a year now, and we've never had a problem with these guys. They've never caused us grief. Maybe they're sitting in the wind in the dark and being, the ghosts they are. which a lot of journalists need to be that way. Maybe they're just sitting there waiting for us to screw up or say something terrible, and then they're going to go blast us all over Twitter. But my gut feeling is, and kind of looking into these folks at Reuters and a few of the other major media, these folks aren't out to do that kind of journalism. They're not out to be cutthroats and backstabbers. These guys are more interested in just getting data, getting intel, getting the news, and reporting it. So, like I said, with journalists, we haven't had a real problem in the past. Our podcast and our sit reps used to be a little more proactive than it is now. We're just barely getting back up and running again, but we are back. And most of those journalists have stuck with us in the Discord and the Patreon, and we appreciate that. So yes, there's content in there. There's a lot. There's probably on any given day of the week and weekends, there's probably 25 to 100 posts put in the Discord a day to a week. Sometimes it's a slow week. Sometimes it's not. The last 48 hours has definitely not been slow with intel. Plus, I've had a lot more free time to really dig into my research and put things out there that need to be out there to our team. The Discord is made up of our intel team. We're independent guys. Some of the guys are active contractors working for different ODAs, agencies, as well as NGOs. These guys, non-government organizations, these guys don't just do intelligence for the agencies in the United States government. They do intelligence and cyber tech, intel, security work in the realm of cyber as well as physical security. These guys provide that service to private corporations as much as they provide it to the agencies. Some of us here are a little bit retired out of what we used to do. I've never gone really into my background, and I'm not going to. The other guys, if they choose to, when they come on, they're more than welcome to kind of give a little bit of their background. But some of these guys are just, regular military retired guys. Some of them are officers or enlisted. We have spooks. We got guys that were spooks, guys that did how would I say it? Knock work, non-official cover work overseas with the agency, the CIA, for example. A couple of our guys did undercover work around the United States, and they pop in from time to time. They jump on Discord, they'll drop or post something that's critical, or they'll contact me or one of the other guys and kind of give us a debrief on what's going on. And our objective is to focus on what is going to hurt our country or target our families, what's going to be a threat to our families, ourselves, our communities, our country as a whole. We are all part of America. We are all part of the United States, and it should be everyone's duty as an American citizen to protect not only the integrity of our reputation in the world, which is a job we left up to the U.S. federal government, and they're completely failing at that job. They're destroying the integrity that we have had. Strength is power, and they've taken that away. But our job as Americans is also to uphold and defend our country, even if you haven't taken an oath to an office or an oath to service to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. That's still your duty. Among your other duties would be voting. It's your duty to vote. It's your right to vote. Yes, you can vote or choose not to. This next election is not real promising for either side, to be honest with you. And it is a battle, but you still have a duty to God in this country to go out and vote. And when hard times come, it's your duty to protect your community. It's your duty to protect your family. It's your duty to stand up and defend this nation if we are ever attacked. The weight of that responsibility falls on our uniformed military, but the weight of that also falls on us when our military is deployed abroad. So keep that in mind. I don't want to be a doomsdayer. I don't want to be a doomsayer to anyone. But speaking of God and defending this country and what this country represents and the foundations this country was built on, which the system, our government, and leadership in our universities, local, state, and federal level political offices, everyone who disagrees with the Constitution in one way or another, one form or another, who's bought into the Marxist ideology and is okay with a system of socialism in this country and not okay with a republic. They scream democracy from the top of every roof, but 99% of the people out there speaking of democracy don't know what real pure democracy is. Democracy is, in its purest form, is tyranny. It has to be practiced very carefully. You need to be responsible with democracy. We are a republic that practices democracy. But our foundations in this nation as a country is we are a republic first. We practice democracy. Most of the people screaming don't understand that definition. They will never go to Google or to a library for that matter and get a dictionary and look it up. And that's on them. That's their failure to educate themselves and be knowledgeable. Knowledge is the key. It's a weapon. And along with that weapon is this one. And I don't care if I get banned off every social media site in the world. I'm going to hold up the American edition or the King James Bible, either one. New World Edition, whatever they call it. I'm not even familiar. That other book is actually on my other table. But this is also a weapon. And this week, this weapon has come under attack. Christianity. And we're going to get into a little bit of that during this sit rep. Guys, I'm going to basically give you a long sit rep today. We're starting at 1900 Mountain Standard Time, and we're probably going to go until about 2100 or maybe even a little over that. So this is going to be an unusual sit rep. My co-host is not going to be able to be here until later, but when he gets here, we will break into the other finer details of what we do here and our purpose of doing this podcast, as well as kind of opening it up for discussion with all of you. There'll be a phone number that'll be put up on the screen for you to call into us. I have my phones right here, and they are all turned on and working, and the ringers are on, so we don't miss any calls tonight. Again, this is a work in progress, so bear with us. Hopefully we can just do direct calls with StreamYard. That way people can be heard a little better. And instead of, I got you, Mr. Winkler, Burke. I do have you. I just don't have you to add to the stream yet. Right now we're kind of doing an overview, an Overwatch sit rep of all the breaking news and the data that's been dropped in the past 48 hours in the Discord servers, documents for that matter. So I'm going to kind of go through this Revelations in the Bible real quick. I'm going to go through this. I'd like to open the show with that other than the introduction. Following that, I'm going to go into the different options you guys have to support us, ways to contact us, and ways to gather more information from our end and the platforms that we use to share data and intelligence with you guys. So that you're ahead of the curve and you can better protect your families and your communities. Where national security, domestic and foreign domestic security is concerned, foreign and domestic. So I'm going to start in Revelations chapter 6, and I'm just going to start in the very first verse, and we'll read until the 7th chapter. And I'll read it slow. Hopefully everybody can understand me. We got good audio right now. I think if we didn't, I'd already got a knock on my door telling me the audio is just crashing terribly. So obviously it's working good. My mic's turned on, volume's up. Nothing's going to pop up here unless the phone rings. So let me start with Revelation chapter 6, verse 1. The seals. I watched as the Lamb opened the first of the 7 seals. Then I heard one of the 4 living creatures say in a voice like thunder, "Come." I looked, and there before me was a white horse. Its rider held a bow, or a bow, I should say, and he was given a crown, and he rode out as a conqueror, bent on conquest. Verse 3, when the Lamb opened the 2nd seal, I heard the 2nd living creature say, "Come." Then another horse came out, a fiery red one. Its rider was given power to take peace from the earth and to make people kill each other. To him was given a large sword. Verse 5, when the Lamb opened the 3rd seal, I heard the third living creature say, "Come." I looked, and there before me was a black horse. Its rider was holding a pair of scales in his hand. Then I heard what sounded like a voice among the four living creatures saying, 2 pounds of wheat for a day's wages, and 6 pounds of barley for a day's wages, and do not damage the oil and the wine. Verse 7, when the Lamb opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature say, "Come." I looked, and there before me was a pale horse. Its rider was named Death, and Hades was following close behind him. They were given power over a fourth of the earth to kill by sword, famine, and plague, and by the wild beasts of the earth. When he opened the fifth seal, verse 9, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain because of the word of God and the testimony they had maintained. They called out in a loud voice, "How long, sovereign Lord, holy and true, until you judge the inhabitants of earth and avenge our blood?" Then each of them was given a white robe, and they were told to wait a little longer until the full number of their fellow servants, their brothers and sisters, were killed just as they had been. Verse 12, I watched as he opened the sixth seal. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red, and the stars in the sky fell to the earth, as figs drop from the fig tree when shaken by a strong wind. The heavens receded like a scroll being rolled up, and every mountain and island was removed from its place. Then the kings of the earth, the princes, the generals, the rich, the mighty, and everyone else, both slave and free, hid in caves among the rocks of the mountains. Verse 18, they called to the mountains and the rocks, "Fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of their wrath has come, and who can withstand it?" 144,000 sealed, chapter 7, verse 1. We'll cover that next time. That's kind of an introduction to Revelations and the seven seals. Everybody here is familiar with the four horsemen, and the pale horse. Upon him rides death. So my perception of the scripture in Revelations chapter 6, my perception of that is, in the end times, we're going to see a lot of change for good and bad. A lot of people in the end times want to kind of focus on the doom and gloom of it all, when, as my counterparts tell me all the time, we should focus more on the positive. It's the awakening of the heavens and the slow, subtle sleep in the beginning, eventually becoming a violent sleep, beginning of a sleep to an end on this earth. So I read the Bible, and I also am a student of the Book of the Hopi. I'm a Native American, so I've studied both. And the Hopi have kind of explained that this has all happened before. And if you read the Bible, even in the Bible, before Native Americans were ever introduced to Christianity, they spoke of this being a past existence, a past reality, and a present. And again, there will be a future presence, a change on the earth. Great grandfather will open the earth, and he will flood the sea, and nothing will be edible. Everything that grows will die. Every animal and creature that walks on this planet will be no more. This has happened before, and it will happen again. So I've talked to some Christians and some pastors, and they've kind of explained to me different versions of the explanation in Revelations, kind of different versions, different truths of their perceptions. And when I put it all together, I kind of come up with the baptism of the Spirit, baptism of water, and the baptism of fire. And it is my interpretation of Revelations that we are due for the baptism of fire. The next one will be fire from the sky, fire from the earth. The seas turn red with blood. In the end times, not to scare anybody, not to try to impress upon you that you need to be fearful of this. Be prepared for this. If you're saved and you're at least making an attempt like I am, because I am no pastor, I am no good Christian. I'm a sinner, and I am probably the least qualified to read out of that book. But I'm beginning a journey with it, and I do understand, like some other ambassadors and podcasters have mentioned, that now that I've picked up that sword, I'm going to be expected to use it, and there will be a fight. There's a battle coming. I'm going to be in the fight for my life. I'm going to be attacked every day by the devil and his demons, because I'm trying to better myself and better my life through the scripture. So I'm prepared for that. Are we good? Okay. Sorry, guys. Had to check here and make sure that I'm technical effective here on the live stream. So thank you for bearing with me. Here shortly, I'm going to go over some information with you guys. I've got a whole hour and a half here to do this, so it may take some time. We're going to get through this. There'll be some time where I'm going to need to take and send some emails to myself and transfer some things from my mobile device to my computer here on the desk. I did not have time to do this earlier, but there's some screenshots that I want to share with you guys that were shared earlier today by the guys with Suspicious Observer. Ben and his team put together the slides, and we're trying to basically explain what is going to, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and put the video up instead of doing the slides. I think I'm just going to go ahead and put the video up. But the explanation that I wanted to give that goes with what Ben's trying to explain to people is there are physical locations within each continent that would be considered safe zones. Revelations, is that something that's in your reality, that you're expecting global warfare? You're expecting Congress, the Senate to fail us, our government to completely collapse, the dollar to collapse, plagues to run rampant. Famine is happening already, and it's going to get worse. Supply chain issues, more viruses run amok. And whether it's all part of the plan by the deep state or not, let's not focus on that tonight. Let's focus on the reality that if or when this happens, what are we going to do to prepare for it? And I'm going to start with the very basic foundation of what do you do to prepare. I'm going to start with the basics. We'll kind of advance a little bit more through that on things that you can do to help further your mission to get to a safe area, to know where to go and know what to do when that time comes. Many of us believe in the rapture. We believe that we won't be here for the worst of it. Some of us will be here for the worst, and we may be here till the very end. And if that's the case, well, it's up to us never to lose our faith. Don't accept the mark of any beast. Don't damn God every time something terrible happens. When the sky is falling and when the earth erupts and the sea is on fire and full of blood, and there's not anything to eat, there's nothing to drink, and you're looking at your own end. You can still have faith, knowing that there's something better behind your death. To not accurately quote Tecumseh, but when you die, don't go regretting the life you've led and the life you've lived. Live every day so that when you die proud, you die honorably, and you die fulfilled. You die with a smile on your face. You know where you're going, and you know where you've been. You know what you've done, and you'll never forget those you did it with. Your brothers, your sisters, and every other person on this planet. Everyone had a part to play in our lives and outcomes, those outcomes that we We face this reality every day, whether it's in business, in your personal life, in your marriage or relationships. Those outcomes are affected, and they affect others around you. Whether you fail or succeed in any of those, do your best. Do it honorably. Return with honor is an old saying the Army Rangers used to say all the time. When you go to war, return with honor. Others, like me, will quote what our wives would say when we come home, either with your shield or on it. If you go to battle in your marriage, to save your marriage, to save a relationship, you go to battle, you go to war at your work, and you're battling everyone around you, all your fellow employees and your supervisors, because they're failing at carrying their water, carrying their weight. Just remember, as long as you carry yours and you do everything you can to help them carry theirs, even in the face of complete and total disrespect, carry yourself honorably to the day you die, and die singing your death song. Tecumseh. Welcome death. Don't regret your life. Don't regret not having lived. Don't regret having to die now. Go peacefully, go willingly, and accept your death. And accept it as a badge of honor, as a medal you wear on your chest. Revelation speaks of a lot of dark times. So what we can do is use the Bible as a roadmap. We can use the book of Revelations as our guide, as our compass, and kind of look at what's going on around us. There's podcasts out there with these other guys, and I'm going to try to stop dropping names until I actually have their permission to use their names in our podcast, that they feel comfortable with allowing us to do that, because we're going to cover some pretty radical topics in this podcast every week, and we're not gonna hold back. We're not gonna pull punches, guys. We're facing enemies of the state. We're facing a state that's become an enemy. We're facing all the demons behind them that are helping them destroy this planet, destroy our lives, and destroy our God. So we're not gonna pull punches. If you want soft and regular, I'm sure there's a podcast somewhere you can go and they'll give you the baby talk, as one of my counterparts tells me, the childlike Christianity version, the softer side of the Bible. We're going to give you the extra crispy side of it, the worst part of it. The battles and the wars that are fought in the Bible are greater than any man has ever fought on this planet. The battles in the heavens with the angels and the demons that God sent to hell, those are battles. Much greater, much more powerful, much more destructive than anything we've ever done on this planet. Yeah, we created nuclear weapons, but God can just wipe us all out with a thought. Tomorrow, we could all be gone. So the battles that are fought in the heavens are much greater than the battles we fight here. And as a warrior, and many of the guys in here are warriors, we all feel we have to bring ourselves to a point where we're humble to that reality, that the battles we fought, though hard and tough, compare nothing to the battles that are ahead of us. Guys that deployed over to the Middle East and all over the other parts of the world fighting terrorism, the global war on terror, literally sacrificing time with their families, seeing their kids grow up, going to college, trying to start a business, run their own life, work hard every day. They're busy over there working for us, the American people. And they made a lot of sacrifices. Yes, they get a paycheck. Yes, the military takes pretty decent care of their people. A lot of their expenses are taken care of, housing, food, and all that. It's still a volunteer military. You're not forced to go in there and do your time. Some countries, they will recruit you and they will force you to go to war, force you to serve 2 years or 4 years. Our military does not. So there comes benefits with that, being a volunteer. There's benefits that come with that, but they don't outweigh the sacrifices that you will make for the rest of your life, whether they be the loss of time with your children and being a dad or a mom and helping them grow and become the adults you want them to be, or even physical pain and injury from being in the military and being in a combat arms role. blowing out your ankles and your knees, and by the time you're 35, 40 years old, you're like 55-year-old man trying to get around like a cripple. There are sacrifices that these men and women make. Our politicians are really good at pointing at all these sacrifices, but it's very difficult to listen to them when they point and say, oh, well, we need to take care of our veterans and our warriors and these disabled guys and this man over here who lost an arm, or this gal over here who lost a leg in an IED explosion in a convoy. It's really easy for them to point all that out, but none of them have ever actually been through that themselves. I can name maybe two congressmen, a congressman and a congresswoman, who, and there's been senators in the past who've taken a bullet, who've been hurt on the job or been in a car. We just lost somebody to a car accident. They've been hurt, they've been injured, and their job takes a toll on them as well. But when you go in to be a congressman or a senator, and you go in and you're worth, let's say, $500,000 because you're successful in your law firm or your business, and you run for office and you go into office and you serve, and then you come out a multi-freaking millionaire after you get done with your 5 or 10 or 20. Some of these folks are almost billionaires 30 and 40 years later, serving our country, getting a pretty modest paycheck for being a congressman or a senator. I think that their benefits outweigh their injuries and their sacrifices by far. I'm not going to try to come down on Ted Cruz and some others like him. I don't think Ted Cruz is a rhino, but I don't think he's 100% with the cause, if you guys understand what I mean by that. But when COVID hit, he jumped his kids on a plane. They flew to Mexico, went on vacation. That's one of those benefits, not a lot of risk. I didn't see a whole lot of sacrifice in that, other than he had to wait in the airport for a little bit, wait for his flight. He wasn't flying a private aircraft or a chartered aircraft. He was flying commercial. I wish I could have grabbed my two children and just jumped up and hauled ass and got on a plane and said, screw COVID, I'm going to Mexico. I'm going to go sit on the beach, drink tequila and mojitos all week. Yeah, he earned it. He worked his ass off. He became a lawyer, and eventually he became even a clerk for the Supreme Court. He worked his way up, just like anybody in the military works their way through the ranks. But what sickens me is when these men and women want to use our injuries and our sacrifices as a crutch to justify their own, side by side with not only their sacrifices, but with their successes. An interesting thing happened today. Before I jump on this Suspicious Observer video, and it's only like 3 or 4 minutes or 5 minutes long, so it's going to be real quick. And since I have the entire podcast to myself, I get to do what I want to do. So I'm going to play that video. And then I'll kind of explain why it's important that people relocate from where they're at if they're near an area that's not rendered a safe area to be. And I'll explain more detail on that in a minute, more of the science and the information behind that. But some interesting things happened today. I'm just going to go ahead and go through them real quick. Nancy Pelosi's nephew, Gavin Newsom. A lot of people haven't put that together. I hope a lot of you guys here have. Family tree is very, very, how would I say, it's vertical in that family. Gavin Newsom's in-laws, his new wife, mother of his child, just gave, I believe, $5,000 to somebody in Florida, and maybe another $1 million or something, I think. I'm not sure the exact numbers yet. I'm still waiting kind of on some emails to come in to tell me what the actual numbers are that are being reported by the campaign finance watchdogs out there that keep an eye on these things. They gave money to Ron DeSantis in Florida when it's starting to look a whole lot like Gavin Newsom and Ron DeSantis are maybe going to face off eventually here pretty soon in what could be a presidential campaign. Now, we're talking a guy who blatantly showed disrespect to the office of the President of the United States when he went to the White House, where the potato was installed in our White House. Well, he made a trip overseas. This guy shows up the very next morning after he left and went overseas to do whatever it was he did in our White House. We don't know. No one's talking. No one's leaking that information. I don't think it was anything too secretive. I don't think it was anything too important. But it's almost like Gavin Newsom went on a little tour of his future office, leaving Sacramento, California for Washington, D.C. That's what it looked like to me. I'm sure he had meetings and met with other people in D.C. while he was there. But he did go to the White House. And he spent a decent amount of time, a few hours in there that morning after Biden left and went overseas on his European and Middle East excursion. This guy, his own family, you really suck at your job, and you probably suck really hard as a human being when you're one of the most powerful governors in the world, let alone the state of California in the United States, one of the most powerful states. You're running it into the ground. You're doing everything wrong. You handled COVID completely wrong. Lockdowns, mandates, all these things completely done backwards, exactly the way the World Economic Forum strongly suggested he do these things, and exactly the way the deep state ordered him to do these things. I'm saying it, and I don't care if I get kicked off the air or banned over saying this. This stuff needs to be said. It needs to be heard. This guy, his own family can't stand him. Enough to where they sent a political donation to Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, who did everything right where it concerns COVID, where it concerns lockdowns and mandates for the vax, and where it comes to basically knowledge of the Constitution, what he can and what he can't do. And when he couldn't do something, he was the first to stand up and say, we can't do this. I'm not doing this. Then he went and battled Walt Disney, and he won that battle, as far as I'm concerned. And he stood up. He stood up when others were either too scared or too paid off to do the right thing, to stand up against what that corporation was doing in Florida and what its influence would have been over the entire United States. His own family, Gavin Newsom's own family, is supporting the other side. That should tell everybody something about what integrity this guy has none of. This guy wants, he's just like Trudeau in Canada. The guy is just thirsty for a dictatorship, for another Venezuela, for a country where no matter how poor and how bad things get, he'll still be in that top less than half of 1%, sitting high on his throne, looking down on all of us, lesser people. And yet he's protected by the same people that wear a uniform every day, that go out and serve and sacrifice and know what sacrifice is and know what personal injury is, and they know what a hard career is, actually going out and busting their ass every day. The problem with our law enforcement and our military is they need to stop protecting these people. And that's one of the reasons why I got this podcast going in the beginning, was to try to reach those guys and explain to them that at some point they're going to have to throw down the gambit and do the fucking job we hired them to do. They took an oath to the Constitution to protect and defend this country against all foreign and domestic enemies. They took an oath to this Constitution, and part of being held by that oath, honor bound by that oath, is do the job you're paid to do by the taxpayers. The taxpayers are paying you to investigate crime, prevent crime, arrest, charge, detain, put in a correctional institution those who commit crime, and take it to a court, to a judge, to a prosecutor, who will then in turn prosecute that crime, pass judgment on that crime, and put these people in fucking prison where they belong. Let's start with Hunter Biden and Hillary Clinton. Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, I can go on and on and on and on. These people have all committed offenses. Maybe not at the criminal level, that we can prove, but at minimum a civil level where they have committed crimes. When you threaten the Supreme Court of the United States, you go to jail. If you make any specific or direct threat of harm upon any justice in the Supreme Court or any judge in this country for that matter, and it can be proven, you probably will face a prosecution. You probably will get charged and thrown in jail. Unless you're a politician, then you can get up and you can do it all day long. The little black lady who's a congresswoman out of Los Angeles, out of Compton for that matter. I can't think of her name off the top of my head, but I'm sure some of you already know who I'm talking about. She's the big loudmouth that told everybody to go out and attack Republicans and attack these people when they go to eat, when they go home, when they go in public, when they go do a speech, when they go to work. Attack them. Chuck Schumer. Threatening the Supreme Court of the United States. He did it all over national television. We all saw it. We've seen it played over and over and over again in some media, not all media. Those are threats. And at minimum, it requires an investigation, maybe a door knock or a visit from federal agents saying, hey, look, you made these comments. We would like you to clarify your comments. What did you mean by you will reap the whirlwind? What does that mean? You will pay the price. What does that mean when you threaten these guys? Because it was a threat. He admitted it was a threat. What was your meaning behind that? But these people have never so much as gotten a sit down with a federal agent in an interview, in an interrogation room, asking them to clarify, go on the record with what they meant, what their intentions were by saying what they said. Chuck Schumer can't say anything without it written down on paper with his glasses on. The guy's memory is shit. It's mashed potatoes and somebody shit in a bowl of mashed potatoes and added oatmeal to it. Food of the devil. This guy reads everything that he says. Somebody wrote it or typed it out. More than likely he did. They typed it out and they wrote it out. He read it. There's your physical evidence. So at what point do federal law enforcement agents and officers in our country, even down to the local, state, county level, when do these guys stand up and make a decision and say enough's enough? You broke the law. I'm going to go write up my warrant. I'm going to take it to my judge, my prosecutor, my legal counsel within the department or the agency, and I'm going to push 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 until I get a fucking answer. Are we prosecuting? Are we charging? Are we going to go and make an arrest or serve a summons to appear in court for making a threat, breaking a law? When are we going to do this? That's what law enforcement needs to be asking themselves. Where are they going to draw the line? At the end of the day, the largest gang in this country, and I will use the term gang, the largest force other than the military and the American people is our law enforcement. And as ashamed as I am of present day law enforcement and the abuse of power that the majority of them do every day, they commit an abuse of power. Say we go back to the 1980s and 90s and even the 2000s when people would say time and time again, it's less than 1% of cops that are bad. Most of the guys are good. They do a good job. They go out, they protect and serve and bust their ass every day, yada, yada, yada. Okay, if that's the case, then why is it 90% plus? Customs and Border Patrol, TSA, sheriff's deputies, police officers from local city police departments, state troopers, all over YouTube, blatantly violating people's rights and being called on it, not only by citizens, but auditors every fucking day. There's probably 500 videos a day posted, at least 500 videos a day posted to YouTube and these other social media platforms of cops doing exactly what they're not supposed to be doing. It's not less than 1% of cops are bad. We're lucky if we have 40% of cops out there that are doing their job and they are doing it by the book and they are following their oath and they're abiding by the Constitution and every amendment and section in that Constitution where it concerns our rights, their own family's rights, hell, their rights. So until these prosecutors and these judges start holding these cops accountable, law enforcement, for doing the wrong thing, none of this is going to stop. and our leadership in this country that's turned treasonous. Blatantly, they're traitors. You're not sleeping with 1, 2, or 3 different Chinese spies and then still keeping your job on the intelligence subcommittee. You're not doing that unless you're in a leadership position and law enforcement will not step in and intervene and do something about it. Unless the Federal Bureau of Investigation steps up to the plate and says, we are opening an investigation on lots of different people, on politicians too. We won't say who. We're not going to disclose any information on an open case. We don't do that by policy, by the historical fact. The FBI has never done that. I would have to do some research to understand the precedence of that, because I think there are certain circumstances where recently the feds have come out and said, oh, well, this and this and this on Trump. But we're not going to speak on this open investigation on Mr. Hunter Biden. And they refuse to speak, but they'll talk all day long about Trump. They'll violate their own policy. So the question becomes, when are they going to step up and start going after these people that are breaking our laws? I don't care how minor it is. I don't care if it's a federal misdemeanor. If it's a felony, by God, they better step up and they better investigate it. They better gather evidence. They better do the due diligence in investigating a crime. And then they better go and arrest somebody. If it's a misdemeanor, I can understand them pulling back a little bit and saying, look, you know what? Let's wait till the idiot does something worse. And then we've got this and that. And then we'll take action. Then we'll do something. But at this point where this country is headed right now, with so many bad eggs in our government, doing everything they can to try to turn this country upside down and weaken us to our enemies, to our near peer opponents, and what may become a global world war again. They're doing everything they can to weaken us at every angle. Until these federal agents stand up and do their job and say, look, we're not going to be a part of this, or we are going to go investigate this. If there's a crime here, we are going to request that a charge, an indictment comes forward for this, because this gentleman here or this woman here did break a federal law. I guarantee you right now, the FBI has maybe 2 senior supervisory agents watching and looking at and handling everything Hunter Biden right now. I don't know how many hundreds they have on Trump, but let's look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. Let's look at Ted Cruz. I bet you the FBI has a whole team of 10 or 20 or 30 agents working on those people each. We know that the feds were not too busy to go out and knock on doors of people who just happen to be in Washington, D.C. or happen to be within a quarter mile of the Capitol building. Never went in the door, mind you, most of which the door knocks occurred on people who didn't even go on the property. They were still on the street, on the public causeway, where they were perfectly legal to walk around. It's public access. There were no barriers up until you got to the Capitol. And these people just happened to be there. They got caught up in a surveillance tap on all the different phones and the metadata that was rolled up by our surveillance state. Oh, this person was there. This person was there. They know everyone who was there. Within 10 miles of the Capitol, they know who was there. Minimum 10 miles. Who belonged there, who lived in the city, who came from out of state, who came down here and belonged to this organization or that organization, who was here with Bikers for Trump. There's an example. Bikers for Trump. They've never committed a terrorist act. As far as I know, they've never took part in any of the criminal activity that ever occurred. These Bikers for Trump, when they rolled into a protest or to a rally where protests were happening, they didn't have to get off their bikes and run over there and beat up Antifa. They didn't have to. Antifa was smart enough to leave the bikers alone. Now, I give those guys this much. They know better to screw with a bunch of bikers and old guys who lived a long time, and they lived to be old because they know how to handle themselves. The Bikers for Trump had nothing to do with J6. Some of them went to the rally. They got on their bikes and they rolled out of there. They did their in and out parade and their convoy just the way they always do it. But they got door knocked. I know 2 of them personally that got fucking door knocked. And even the feds were telling these folks, we don't want to be out here knocking on your fucking door. We just need to know if you went to the Capitol. Did you go in the Capitol? No. Okay, great. We're going to sign your name off. Have a nice day. We're sorry we bothered you. We don't want to fucking be here any more than you want us to be here. We'd rather be out chasing drug dealers and rapists and murderers and terrorists and actual criminals. But we can't do that because the senior leadership is only zero focused on January 6th and these pesky little Republican MAGA people running around. God forbid they voted for the wrong guy. Now they're domestic terrorists. Meanwhile, Antifa's still running amok in Portland, tearing up shit all the time. Got BLM, who's gone on the down low, by the way, as of recent. Still have they never mentioned or stood up or tried to raise a movement for all the children, black children in Chicago that are killed every weekend. Never heard a word out of them about that. We don't know where all that billions of dollars the Black Lives Matter movement got. We know that several of their leadership, and you know what? Everybody says to me constantly on this Twitter feed that I'm running their asses into the ground. I'll be honest. I'm giving these guys a run for their money. Prove to me and I'll prove to you. Show me and I'll show you. Truth or dare. How many Antifa people out there claim that they're not an organization, they are a collective? There is no centralized leadership. Therefore, they're not a gang. They're not technically an organized organization, organized group. And therefore, they don't qualify for RICO because they're not a organized criminal organization. I can prove to you over the last 4 years of my life, of the research I did, the classes I attended, the schooling that I went through, the studies that I did on my own, the activity I was involved in. And yes, activity is the word I'm going to use for it. The job that I did for the last almost 4 years of my life of 20 was intelligence, counterintelligence, counter-surveillance, counter-reconnaissance on these groups, these Antifa folks, these BLM people. Anyone who went and showed up to a Capitol building or a city and did a protest, eyes on, guys. Eyes on these people. All of us. We're not looking at one side or the other because it didn't matter. Most of us were watching these guys go over here and attempt to burn down a federal building or try to smuggle in weapons that came from China, AK-47 SKSs that came from China, made it off the boat to a warehouse, and then boom, they disappeared, and no one could find out where they all went. They just kind of disappeared. And then to come to find out that 2 different heads of Antifa, 2 leadership people in Antifa, the organization, were communicating 2 different states, managed to put together a group of their servants, their followers, to go and get this cache of weapons and run it to a 3rd state, make it disappear, all on the down low. And now all those weapons have been distributed all across the country. And just a little bit of federal law enforcement assistance in those cases of these Antifa guns disappearing, just a little bit of help, and all those guns would be off the street right now. They wouldn't be in the basement of some fucking whacked out left-wing liberal nut job, hates his parents, hates school, hates America, hates American flags, and hates apple pie, and is going to be the next school shooter. You know, Antifa doesn't like him. Oh, you know what? We just use you to hang on to some guns and to some money and, you know, give a couple people a place to, you know, lay down at night. But you really don't mean shit to us. Fuck you. Go find some other club to join. And now this guy who is an outcast already, can't fit into any group. Now he just fucking hates all groups. He hates all these different movements. And he's like, well, screw them. But he's not going to show up to the Patriots and go grab his AK-47 and light them up. That won't happen. That would be a terrorist act if he did that. No, instead he's going to go to a school or a public place where it's a gun-free zone, and he's going to go attack them, the helpless. And then our FBI and our agencies are going to cover it up and say, oh, well, you know, it's starting to look a whole lot like he was radicalized by the right wing. Then that's going to be in the media. And then by the time the facts come out and everybody figures out, hey, this guy was actually one of these left-wing nut jobs, not one of the right-wing nut jobs. This guy is actually you know, all about Biden, by the time that information comes out, the media has already laid it out and put it in all these sheep in their minds. Oh, that was a right winger. That was a right winger. I don't know how many times I've talked to people, and they're still convinced that the guy up in Wisconsin during the parade and the guy who ran into the Capitol cops in his car, tried to run him down, and then got shot and killed at the barrier in Washington, D.C. Even the guy down in Texas that went into Walmart and the guy after him that went into Uvalde school. These are all right-wingers. All these people were radicalized by the right. Oh, if they're Nazis or racist or Klan or any other white separatist or white supremacist organization, they're right-wingers. And you'll never convince them otherwise. Their brain is mush. They don't have critical thinking skills. They have critical race theory. They don't have critical thinking skills. They can't step out of their own bias for just a minute and look at all sides of a situation or a personality and say, well, here, I'm going to pass judgment based on what I see, non-biased. They don't have that ability. And now we got federal agents that are getting fingers pointed at them by whistleblowers and other federal agents saying, this guy right here, he's a left-winger. Absolutely all about Biden, hates Trump, wants to see Trump, burn in hell. But because he's an FBI agent, we're going to give him a pass. He's really a good guy. Let's don't arrest him or charge him for a crime or walk him out of the FBI building in handcuffs. Instead, we're going to walk him out with a nice 2-man escort and say, it's been fun, 25 years, great service. Here's your medal, here's your ribbon, here's your fucking watch, and here's your full retirement. And I'm talking about Timothy Tebow, the FBI agent that just resigned out of the FBI after 25 years of service. And he's got full retirement after blatantly violating, from what I know, dozens of bureau policies, notwithstanding all the violations of criminal code that he was involved with by covering up a case, or by even if it's true that he didn't give the information he was required to his supervisors, who in turn gave it to Christopher Wray, director of the FBI, even if that's true, at some point, the FBI had to have been looking at all the information and the intelligence that we out here in the unclassified portion of the world, we're getting off this laptop. We're getting this information, that information. We're confirming this and that. We got these images. We got this off the hard drive. This is confirmed. These emails were tracked and traced, and everything matches up. Boom, boom, boom. Here's more metadata. Here, let's look at this, compare it to the other. It all matches up also. We got a case right here. This guy should be in handcuffs. He should be charged for I don't know how many federal crimes. He's going to get the Al Capone treatment, Hunter Biden. He's going to get tax evasion. They're going to slap him on the wrist. He's going to get 6 months, maybe, kind of like Paul Pelosi, who just got, I think, 3 years of unsupervised, what they call bench probation. In other words, no probation officer. It's the most minimal sentence that can be passed down by a judge for a DUI, and they did it. They didn't even let the investigation finish. There were injuries. There were serious injuries, and defined by law, serious injuries means this is a felony, not a misdemeanor DUI charge. If anyone gets hurt because you're drinking and driving and you cause an accident, which it was proven that he caused the accident, and there's injuries, it's elevated to a felony. All of us would be charged with a felony. We'd all be sitting in jail in handcuffs for a felony, not a misdemeanor. And then they go ahead and they pass down judgment and end this case and give him 3 years of bench probation, unsupervised, and a fine, court costs, and all the other shit that goes with it. I think he has to do 1 day, is what I understand, 1 day of community service. I sped through a school zone, 5 miles an hour over the speed limit in a school zone. I was written a ticket by a city cop. I deserved the ticket. By God, I took and accepted it. Yeah, I did. I was going over the speed limit. If there's any time you don't go 1 mile an hour over the speed limit, it's in a fucking school zone during those certain hours. I did it. I'm guilty. I wasn't going to plead my case on the street because the cop's not a judge. He's not a lawyer. He deemed that I earned a ticket, so I took the ticket. I went to court. I didn't even try to fight it. I just went to court and said, yeah, Your Honor, I'm guilty. Okay, you got 30 days of community service plus a fine plus court costs and all this other shit. I didn't get no probation. It was a misdemeanor, not even a misdemeanor, it's a freaking traffic ticket. The most minor misdemeanor there is. Yes, you can go to jail for it, but no cop's going to take you to jail for that unless you're excessive in the speed zone, like 10, 20 mile over, and you might get handcuffed. I was 5 mile an hour over. I was hurrying up to go take care of a client, and I got in a hurry and I ran through a school zone. And then, not to mention, about 7 minutes before the deadline for the school zone restrictive speed limit was the end that morning. All the kids were in school. There wasn't a kid on the street, but it doesn't matter. I broke the law. 30 days community service. I did my community service. I was allowed to pick the community service I wanted to do. So I went down and reported and says, I can grow a shitload of food out of nothing, and I can give a whole lot of food to the freaking food pantry and the soup kitchen down here downtown. I can provide food for the non-profit here in town, and I can, I can grow a lot of food. I had a big bunch of mountain full of sand, and I grew food in it. I didn't see a lot of other people growing food in it, but I made it work. And I was growing some really great food, and I donated. I spent 30 days instead of out doing what I was doing with other things I had going on. I grew a garden, and I'm like, well, here, let's turn this into a positive experience. I'm going to grow a garden, learn how to fucking grow food in sand with no nutrients, and I'm going to make it work. And I did. I didn't hurt nobody going through the school zone. I could have, yes, but I didn't hurt nobody. And I was in a state with almost identical laws to the state of California when that occurred in the school zone. And this guy got 1 day of community service. 1 day. You see, because he's a businessman and he's busy. So we can't take him and give him 30 days of community service because, well, he needs those other 29 days. Me, I had a full-time career and a full-time company running my own business, and boom, 30 days of my time was now going to be someone else's time. And I didn't even hurt anybody. So our system's broken. These cops are out of control. Moral of the story is, guys, and I didn't mean to go on such a long rant about it, but again, and this time is mine. And I did want to cover this because I'm not going to really go into real depth with it later on when we do the podcast, when my partner Intrepid gets here. But as of right now, our country is at a breaking point. We are at a crossroads. We can turn this around. But if we keep going where we're going on the wrong road here, instead of getting back down to that crossroads and making a right instead of a left and making the right decision on which path we're going, we're going to go so far down the wrong path, there's not going to be any way we can turn this thing around. And every American out there that's sharing data, that's posting in social media, that's like me getting banned off Twitter every other day, keep the fight up. Don't give up. Keep hammering these bastards. The more we hammer them, the less they feel comfortable taking advantage of us in our country. But we got to stay on that ass. I know the language I'm using is probably not choice language I could be using in this, but again, guys, I am madder than hell. I hope every one of you are mad as hell. And we need to do something. And we need to do things quickly. Everybody out here is doing a little something, a small part of this. We all have a part in that to play. But all together, collectively, undivided, we stand together, even though I don't agree with this guy on his politics or that guy on his politics. But this guy I know loves his country. He doesn't just fly a flag in front of his house. This guy over here, he's a cop. He took an oath and he says he loves the Constitution and his country and he's a patriot and wears his flag and his badge on his chest proudly. But I know he's not out abusing people's constitutional rights, violating people's civil rights, being a general jack off in a badge and a uniform, Mr. Gestapo Jr. He's not doing that. So I don't agree with everything he does. And I don't agree with this guy over here in his politics because he believes in, he's a Christian, he's a conservative, but he believes in abortion. Well, I don't agree with that. But these guys are not my enemies. And the people in Washington, D.C. would love nothing more than to cause division between me and these two guys and have all three of us be pissed off and go our own separate ways. Well, we're not going to let that happen. I actually know these two guys. They're real people in my real life, and I'm not going to walk away from them any more than they're going to walk away from me. We're brothers. We're pals. We're comrades, whatever you want to call us. And we got each other's backs. One of them's a black guy. Nothing in Washington, D.C. would love to see more than me or that guy go to blows, end our friendship, not be on the same team, start having different belief systems, and then at the end of the day, he hates me and I hate him. That gentleman knows more about me and my life intimately than most people on this planet, even my own family. And I know a shitload about him and his most intimate personal information. And we trust each other. And I got his back no matter what. And he'll be the first one to call out BLM and talk about how disgusting they are, what a bunch of bullshit it is. And I'll be the first one to call out every racist politician in the Washington of D.C. who's a white or Irish or Native American. I don't care what they are, but they might be my people, Native American and Irish. And yet I know a little bit about them. I know how racist they are. I know how prejudiced they are. And I don't judge them because of that. I don't care if they are. That's their personal belief system. Whether it's right or wrong, I judge them based on their actions. Do they go out and lynch people? No. Do they say shit that's very curt and private among people that they're comfortable with and say things that maybe they shouldn't, that would be absolutely condemned if it ever got out in public? Absolutely. Hell, I'm probably going to do that 2 or 3 times in the show tonight. Say shit that I shouldn't say. But I don't apologize. I'm me. I'm who I am. I'm not going to change. I'm not going to change who I am because who I am has worked for a minute. And at least it's honest. And it's strong. So I'm going to move on to this real quick. Let me get rid of this screen here real quick. I'm going to explain to you guys what exactly Ben is talking about with suspicious observers. He's been around for a decade. This man has had his channel up on YouTube. Someone that I trust. His information is factual. Every day, this man absolutely pisses off the folks at NASA. They try to contradict everything he says. All the science, all the data, all these papers that they publish that he unpacks. I'm not going to say the guy's making predictions, but his predictive science, which is part of science, theory and predictive science, he's spot on. So I'm not going to argue with the guy. He's a hell of a lot smarter than I'll ever be. And he knows what he's talking about. And he's never led us wrong yet. Not in the memory that I have of following this guy for the last 3 or 4 years. He's not led me wrong. So I hope the volume on this is loud enough. Hopefully the other person here assisting me with this will let me know if this volume doesn't pop up. If it doesn't, I'll do something different. But this is the video right here, guys, that I want you to watch. And I will share, actually, I believe, for the guys in Patreon and Discord, your link is already there. So space weather is one of our channels. We have weather intelligence, ground-based intelligence, air intelligence. We have a lot of different channels where we cover a lot of different aspects of our global and national security. And our space weather and our global weather patterns, our weather here in the United States, weather decides whether you go into a conflict, into a war, into a battle or not. Weather has a big, huge part to play in that. Weather intelligence. So I'm going to let this play through, and at the end of this, it's only 6.5 minutes long. At the end of this, I'm going to kind of explain the blue rectangles in this, and I'm going to give you guys my opinion on ensuring that you and your family are in an area that you can try to survive no matter what happens. But you have that duty too, not just to vote, not just to put in this country, but you have the duty to survive. Nowhere in the Bible does it say it's okay to give up and go to heaven if you die. God gave us the weapons of war right here to use. It's our job and our duty, not just to our country, but and ourselves and our families, but to our Heavenly Father, to survive. Here's Ben with Suspicious Observer.
Good evening, folks. This is the third time I have made this video. The safest zones that could be predicted based on the disaster most likely to unfold, based on all the evidence. How do you know where to go? What tells you which areas are safe more than others? The answer to these questions require risk analysis for before, during, and after the disaster. Up until the main event, the climate will continue getting more extreme and hostile. Volcanoes will begin their uptick, and the sun is likely to take out power to the world as Earth's magnetic field continues to weaken. During the disaster, there are the tsunamis and cosmic radiation to consider, and afterwards, there is the new climate based on new polar positions and the need to rebuild. For example, during the disaster and perhaps for a bit afterwards, having underground protection is very favorable, especially since it appears previous civilizations used these areas to survive in numerous places across the world. During the disaster, elevation is paramount. No continents will escape both the initial tsunamis and the sloshback. This is especially critical the closer you are to a coastline. Population density is critical both before and after the main event. When we lose power, the world will quickly enter survival mode just a couple of days or maybe a few weeks later. And obviously, after the main event, the more people around, the larger the risk of adverse interactions with other hungry, desperate people. The new pole positions and expected climate coming with them are one of the most critical aspects of this question as well. In this equation, surviving the first two legs of the disaster doesn't matter if you wind up at the South Pole. All of these things must be considered, and while you can easily check population density for yourself, and you could work a bit harder to find a safe space with underground protection, here are some other basics in map form. But first, here's the legend to what we're about to see. Arrows are the tsunamis expected from the tilt. Red would be the initial run-up from inertia. Yellow is the sloshback. But remember, there is always the potential for other tsunamis based on land rising and sinking. We'll see a good example of that when we get to Africa. Blue ovals are where it will be too cold, either when we lose power before the main event or afterwards in the new climate. Darker blue rectangles are going to show the safest zones given all that can be predicted, and the orange stars show where the crust is most likely to be an issue, either from volcanoes, earthquakes, or expected land rising or sinking. We'll begin with North America. Since Greenland is expected to tilt south and wind up at the equator, the waters will initially be surging northward, even though it's really the land moving south into those areas. That's bad news for the center of the United States and the Gulf of Mexico, likely to run up through the middle of the country. My head goes to the future U.S. Navy map of the country. And
I'm going to pause it right there. So when he talks about the middle of the country, those familiar with the United States have driven coast to coast understand that you come out of the Appalachians, you get into more or less a heavily vegetated area through the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, the Missouri Valley. Once you get out of these areas, you come to the high plains of Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Colorado's part of that, Nebraska, Wyoming, South Dakota, North Dakota. This is kind of your central part of the United States. But you have your central Midwest, which includes the Mississippi River and everything west to Colorado, Montana, eastern Texas, or western Texas. He's talking about right here. These are lowlands. Some of the high plains area in Texas up into Colorado is a mile above sea level. But other areas down here are at sea level. Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, right along that coastline and right along the Gulf coastline into Texas. That is sea level. The Mississippi River has flooded before. If you guys remember, there's actually a big tectonic plate right here, and the river ran backwards. It's in the history books. Mississippi River went the other way for a while, and then it started going the way it was supposed to, back out to the ocean. And an earthquake caused that. It's called the Madrid quake. Anyway, it's the Madrid is the fault through this area. That's the area he's talking about being flooded. From Tennessee up to West Virginia and parts of Pennsylvania, there are elevations there. These are not big mountains, but they are mountains. They're small mountains, but the elevations there are high enough. When he talks about the oceans coming up, we're talking about a catastrophic event when the earth tilts, when our poles reverse themselves. Our magnetic shield around the planet's weakening, our poles flip, and our oceans and our volcanic activity, our tectonic plates, everything's going to react. It's a huge chain reaction. These blue boxes right here that you see on the screen are areas that are considered to be safe zones, where you're at a higher elevation to avoid the flooding, the massive flow of water, where you don't need a big boat to get around. But you're also in areas where there's caves, a lot of underground protection, in case this solar event becomes like an X-class solar flare that fries the surface of the planet on one side when it hits us. Massive coronal mass ejection, CME. He speaks about that every morning at the 5:30, 6 o'clock a.m. update. And if you haven't caught suspicious observers, for those that are here, it's 3 or 4 minutes of your time while you're taking a shower in the morning before you're going to work. It's worth it. Subscribe on his channel and get these daily space weather observations and the science to back them up. It's well worth it. So this area right here is considered a safe zone. I would bring it up even up into parts of Montana. I know this part of the country intimately. I've been in every one of these states. I've been in a lot of the backcountry in this part of the United States. My line would be a little bit different than what he put here, but I'm going to tell you guys, having seen basically the military's version of this map for different disaster scenarios, they have a map very similar to this one, very similar. Washington State around Seattle, the San Andreas, the Juan de Fuca fault line that runs up through the Juan de Fuca Strait here, all the way into Seattle. These are very vulnerable areas. We have a really, really, really big one right here in Wyoming called Yellowstone super volcano. Matter of fact, in the last 48, 72 hours, we've seen an uptick of volcanic activity, 3.0 and up. Nothing really over 4 point on the Richter scale, but we have seen a steady increase over the last few days. And I'm not an expert on earthquakes, so I don't know if that's just a small swarm, if we're just seeing coagulation occurring with the heavy molten pool that's underneath Yellowstone that heats the groundwater, which is why we have the geysers, these springs. I don't know enough about that science to tell anybody that Yellowstone's having hiccups or is getting ready to shit the bed. But what I do know is we're having an uptick is something that a lot of people a lot smarter than I am pay attention to. But of all the areas in the United States with all the different earthquake and natural environmental concerns and dangers, the military has their map almost identical to what Ben has here as far as safe zones and kill zones, basically. Unsurvivable areas. The coastlines, forget it. The coastlines are gone. And anybody within range of these coastlines close to sea level, 6, 7, 8, 9,000 feet, it's done. Now, this is a prediction. This is a predictive science model of what could happen. He's not saying this is going to happen, but from somebody that studied this for most of his life, he's pretty smart when it comes to the science where space weather is concerned. He's got an idea. He's got a rough idea on what's going on with this. We've seen a massive uptick in activity with our sun over the last, I want to say 4 years. Last 4 years, we went through a quiet period, roughly 6, 7, 8 months, and that was back in the end of last year, beginning of this year. Kind of went through a cooling period with the sun, solar activity. Now we're right back to it. The last 3 weeks, I know because my physical health has obviously suffered of it. I've taken a hell of a hit in the last 2 weeks. High blood pressure is affected by it. Anybody with any kind of mental illness, it will affect you. If you got arthritis, you got ulcers, say you got any kind of cancer, you're going to notice changes in your body that run concurrent with the solar activity, with the solar flares, with the CMEs, with these massive flares that have been hitting us. Nothing to take down our radio waves, but I do monitor my shortwave just to see if we're getting activity. It's called atmospheric skip, where I'm able to listen to radio stations around the world. My two-way shortwave, citizen band radio combination, I'm able to communicate around the world. These radios, and by the way, for the FCC yahoos, that is legal. I'm not pirating any channels. Just want to clarify that. The radio waves have been being affected. Our grid has taken a little bit of a toll. I'd say some activity in the northern part of the United States, Ontario, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Ontario, Canada, New York, New Hampshire, Maine. These areas have seen some grid issues, technical issues with their grids. Nothing major, nothing to turn the lights out, nothing to shut it down, but they've had complications. I've seen it in local media, nothing in national media. But we've also seen an uptick in suicide suddenly. We've seen an uptick in people mysteriously dying. An oil company executive just jumped out of a window or was pushed out of a window in Russia this morning. He's dead. We had Gorbachev passed away. We always seem to have a lot of death right around the time that we have these solar events. And I think a lot of that has to do with the mental crisis that goes on with people, depression, other mental handicaps. I hate to use the word mental, but people that are mentally disabled, they take a heavy beating when these things occur. And I wasn't one to jump on the bandwagon and really believe that until I started monitoring my blood pressure, monitoring my physical health, my physical ability to move around, use the weights, hit the ruck. I go out one morning, I feel like Johnny 90 mile an hour all the way up and down the hill doing my ruck. And then the next day, solar flare, boom, happens at 3 o'clock in the morning. I suffer for the first few miles of my ruck. Maybe 2 days ago, we had a CME. That plasma hits the planet. It takes 2 to 3 to 4 days for that to reach us. When it does, I feel that weight in the atmosphere. I definitely feel a change in the energy, and it's not for the better. So I've been monitoring this, recording it, kind of taking in the data mentally, not writing it down. I should write it down. But I've been watching, I've been paying attention, and I've been following this, and it's starting to come together like a puzzle with every piece and not one piece on the floor missing. At the end of the puzzle, I'm going to have all the pieces I need to see the bigger picture. So paying attention to solar weather is very important. It's critical. A lot of the other podcasters are starting to pay a lot more attention to this. But just over the last, I would say 4 weeks, roughly 4 weeks, we've seen some solar activity in our sun that is just off the charts. 2, 3, 4 CMEs a day. We had almost a confirmed X-class flare the other day. Very close. And of course, when I turned on the shortwave, I didn't get one single radio station outside my 100-mile area. I couldn't listen or hear anything. There's a lot of atmospheric interference. We had the Aurora Borealis all over northern Canada, reached down in parts of the northern lower 48. That did happen. I didn't get to see it. I think I went to bed that night when the Aurora Borealis was happening. I was a little tired and had to go to ruck in the morning. But I did feel it. I did notice changes in my body, my chemistry, my energy. So pay attention to these things. This map looks a lot like the one the United States military looks at every so often when they're doing a revamp of protocols in case there's a natural disaster. That's the scary part, is there's places to go and places you don't want to be. I got off the East Coast. I was in a bad area. Not a bad area, but not a good area. And I got out of the East Coast. I had enough of the population density issue there. And I came back out to the Midwest. And I'm in a safe zone. I think I'm in a safe zone. Might not be exactly on this map, but I feel like I'm in a safe zone. And I've been slowly putting that out to people over the last year in the podcast and the Discord. Slowly, gently putting that out, because I don't want to ring alarm bells that don't need to be rung. And I also don't expect people with families and kids and grandkids at a house or a mortgage and trying to make ends. I don't expect them to pick up tomorrow and go buy a fifth wheel or a big RV and bust out of where they're from and where they've known for many years or even their entire life, come running out here to the middle of nowhere. But I'm going to say it tonight for the first time. I'm going to say this. If you're in one of these areas that's considered unsafe, stay at your own risk. Or if they start getting a little more active with the sun, maybe the media starts leaking out a little bit more information in the way that they do it, little by little, hoping that you're too stupid to pay attention. And you start seeing things just kind of going the wrong direction, a little more and a little more. Taking a serious consideration of getting out of where you're at and getting out here where we are. My guys and me completely relocated. A few of them are still on the coastline, and I'm just waiting for them to muster up and get their butts out of there. But we're all planning on coming to these box areas where we're at, where we've done the area studies. We know what to expect. We know what resources are available. We know where to go in case something goes bad. And there are plenty of assets to sustain life if something were to collapse, whether it be the economy or our grid and infrastructure due to a man-made event like a nuclear weapon or even a solar event. No matter what happens, when it happens, we're going to be reactive. We're going to get out there. We're going to do what we know how to do, what we plan for, what we're training for, what we're mentally preparing ourselves for. We're going to start doing that, what we know we need to do. We're going to be reactive. We're being proactive now. We will be reactive then. We're going to be assets, not liabilities. And I preach that all the time to my students and other people that I work with. Be an asset, never a liability. Liabilities get left behind and their tummies go hungry. Assets are at the front of the line and they're eating good like the rest of us. So be an asset. But take into consideration, if you're in one of these low-lying areas near a coastline or in a low valley area like Louisiana up to Wisconsin and the Mississippi River and the Great Lakes, be prepared to pack up and go. If there was a meteor coming and the president of the United States got on TV and said everybody needs to evacuate the cities, or, you've seen it in movies time and time again. People get up, they grab their RV and they haul ass and they go wherever they believe at the time is a safe place to go and to be. So do that. I promise you, the elites, they have teams and teams of people doing this for them. They're not doing it. They're too damn lazy to do it. Their brains can't handle this shit. But they have the knowledge and the wherewithal to know that something may happen. And if it happens, they want to be prepared for it. If we have a massive CME and it causes a EMP event, electromagnetic pulse event in the United States, don't go jump on a plane and fly across the country to go be with your son or daughter, or go help your friends get out of where they're. Don't do that. Get in your old gas-powered or diesel-powered vehicle and go do what you need to do. Don't jump in the electric car. Get where you need to go and do your own research. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research. Gather your own data. Weigh the facts with the bullshit. Figure out what you believe, what you're comfortable with understanding where this is all concerned, and make your decision. Make your move. However you feel you need to make that move. I made mine. My guys and me all kind of came to an agreement 2 years ago. This is what we need to do. 6 years ago, we all made a decision to get out of the place we were all collectively at, which was pretty much California, Nevada, Oregon, Washington. We got the hell out of there. Some of the guys already came out here. I didn't run out here that quick. I had to go to the East Coast in, 2 years of work, 3 years of work out there, and then I had to come back out here. but now I'm finally where I need to be. And I've done an area study. So if you guys come my direction, if you contact me privately and I feel comfortable with sharing with you, you're going to come to where the asset is already in the works. We've already done the area study. We know where the resources are. We know about resources that even most of the locals don't know about. It's not classified information. It's just a matter of taking the time to do your research, due diligence, do your research, and then take your facts and your bullshit, weigh them, see which one's more heavier than the other, and make a decision on that. I don't mean to sound like a total old fart Gen Xer here, but I guess I am. So yeah, just kind of look at that map, guys, and I'm going to go ahead and play the rest of this video, about 3 more minutes of it. And he's going to go into the population density aspect, and I want you guys to listen carefully when he does that.
The Atlantic coast angle to the ocean isn't so great either. Don't underestimate the sloshback potential of the lakes either, especially Hudson and the Great Lakes. It is too cold right now in the far north for most people to live without power, something we expect to see before the main event. And the west coast has the highest earthquake, volcano, and land sink potential. The key safe zone is on the eastern range of the Rockies, what I call the new Valley of the Sun. And while I can't guarantee the East Appalachian and extended region will make it out of the initial wave, can't rule it out either. Definitely have population density concerns in that area though. South America sees the same wave patterns, with the initial wave going north and the slosh coming south. Central portions of the west coast are likely to have the greatest earthquake activity. I didn't mark the radiation concern of the South Atlantic anomaly to the East Coast countries, but that is a problem. One that is largely outweighed, however, by the fact that the new South Pole is likely to freeze this area. Regions in the now southern Andes would have the best chance of surviving the event, and they will be closer to the new equator. Those regions, however, may have cold concerns in the before period after power is lost. Africa is one of the axes of the tilt, so its tsunamis are likely to be less intense, unless, of course, land rises in the Atlantic, a very high possibility, in which case the west coast is going to get utterly obliterated by the water displacement. The East African rift over the LLSVP is likely to rise and produce tremendous volcanic activity, and to the east of that, the Indian Ocean sloshback will be one of the worst we see. Not to mention that they can say goodbye to their warm climate, with Indonesia likely to become the new North Pole. Best chance is at the climatological boundary just south of the Sahara Desert, in the highest elevation one could find there. Europe, kind of a tough one. It's surrounded by water. The Italian, Greek, and German volcanic complexes are very troublesome, not to mention the earthquake potential near the Mediterranean. Much of the north gets too cold now for life without power for many people, and the population density is off the charts in Europe. Some remote areas of the mountainous zones, and perhaps extending down to Spain as well, I could see that as an argument for a safe zone here, especially those with underground potential. Those are the best bet. Australia and New Zealand. Coastal regions are scary because of that same being surrounded by water. There's tremendous earthquake and volcano potential in New Zealand, and the northern areas near the already active islands of Oceania have a very strong earthquake and volcano risk. The largest initial tsunamis hitting Western Australia rather than Eastern Australia, so we are guessing that the eastern high elevations away from people are your best bet there, although survivors will almost certainly exist somewhere in the west as well. Yes, this is a lot to consider, but break it up into that before, during, and after, and start with the population density. No matter what else favors your location, downtown anywhere is a bad idea. I'll see you in the morning for the daily show. Be safe, everyone.
All right, guys. So as he said, and this is something that most all of you guys already know, we got a lot of smart people in American Legionnaire and TCG Global here. Population density, for a multitude of reasons, a whole freaking long grocery list of reasons why you don't want to be in an urban or major inner city metropolitan area in any kind of cataclysmic event. it should be obvious to anyone why you would not want to be there. To a leftist who has Uncle Cracker government protecting them, feeding them, giving them everything for free, medical, dental, bills paid, free college, free food, no worries, smoke a joint, pack a bowl. For those guys, the city is the perfect place to be because everything they need is right there. Every social service they need is there. Every free handout is there. But what happens when the farmers in the rural areas decide to stop shipping those trucks full of food to the cities? And I guarantee you that's the first thing that's going to happen. FEMA may get a bunch of farmers to load their trucks up and haul ass to the nearest major city. Wherever you're at in the country, you may be loading food to go help those poor people in New York or San Francisco or LA, cities full of people that hate our guts. We're just rednecks and white trash and deplorables out here in the Midwest, flyover country. Not all those people are bad. Not all. They're not. I mean, I've got friends in New York City and San Francisco, and a couple guys I know and girls down in LA that I know, and they're good people. And they hate living where they live. But when the food gets cut off, those people are not going to eat. They're not going to have clean water. Most of those people don't know how to boil water in order to sanitize it and make it safe to drink. A lot of people do. But as you saw in New Orleans with Katrina, a lot of people don't. They just don't have the wherewithal to go and learn those things. You think being in a poor community and being in the lower class, poor community, poor section of town, they would have to do these things in order to even remotely try to live a normal life. I know bad parts of some towns that I don't trust the city pipes that are underground that have been there 80 to 100 years. My water's running through there and I'm drinking it. I don't trust that. So yeah, I'd probably take steps to filter my water or try to make it a little safer to drink. Maybe go get a lab to run a pH on it, see where the water contaminants are in my city water or my well water. You would do that for a well. These people don't have the kind of money to go down and pay $200-300 to $600-700 for a water test at a lab. They just don't have that kind of money. So you would think they would learn simple common knowledge basics to boil their water and go from there. Well, not everybody knows these things. It's our job to teach them and to help them, but at some point in time, school's going to go out. The bell's going to ring. It's not going to be time to learn anything and try to catch up on all those things you should have been doing. It's going to be too late for that. It's going to be you have the skills and you're able to work with the tools you got and attack the problems that you come across, or you don't and you have to rely on others. And if you don't have others to rely upon, then you fade away. Dust in the wind. As Dan Bongino says all the time, don't get dead. Well, a good way to not get dead, educate yourself. Come to the table with knowledge and go to the battlefield with the tools you need to do the job, whatever job that may be. Inner cities, if there's a natural disaster like a hurricane or something even major like grid failure and power goes out and the air conditioner gets cut off, these people in New York, when it's a 90, 92, 93 degree day, most of us can handle a 92, 93 degree day, even people in New York. It's the elderly people that will take the hit. Those are the bodies that will start stacking up first. These people don't have the ability, the disabled and the elderly, they don't have the ability to go out, stockpile, and do this and that, even though a lot of them do. I'm not discrediting anyone for age, but a lot of these people have lived through some hard times already, and they're pretty prepared. But if the power goes out and the air conditioner gets shut off and it's a 98 degree day in New York City or a 105 degree day in Los Angeles in the basin, and they're seeing like 110, 112 down there right now, people will die. People are going to die. It's our job to reach out to our nearest neighbors that we know go out of our way to reach out to the elderly in our communities and help these people and the disabled. It's our job to do that. That's just being human. That's just common decency. One person to another helping a fellow human being. That's all it is. But at some point in time, you're going to have to make those hard decisions. Am I going to go take care of everybody in the neighborhood, or is it now time for me to only worry about taking care of my immediate family, which is my immediate community? Those are going to be hard decisions to make. I don't wish that on anybody. Who lives and who dies, who I help and who I don't. But these are things that we all need to be thinking about and preparing for. I used to do a lot of chats on the Discord, and I might start doing that again with everybody. And I kind of go into some of this. You know, a lot of people just want to hear these things because it gives them some level of reality or comfort. To me, you throw the worst case scenario, natural disaster, man-made disaster at me, and I become more comfortable as things start to tick up. Things start to get more chaotic. Things start to get more on edge, more dangerous, unstable. I get into my calm zone where I'm focused, I'm zeroed in, I'm buckled down, I'm ready to handle it. Whatever it is that's coming my direction. Until I'm dead, I'm going to go at this thing with everything I got. And hopefully I got a team of people here with me that are super smart, smarter than me, and we can all work together and do this. I'll handle the dirt and the mud. You guys just do the math and the paperwork, and let's do this. Let's get it done. But I think I might start doing the Discord chats again, hopefully here any minute. As it is almost 20:35 Mountain Time, Denver, Colorado time. We might get Intrepid in here. He has not called. He said he would call me, so I'm just waiting on that phone call. He might have messaged me. Let me check him real quick. But yeah, there's a lot to think about. Not a lot of time to think about it. So as you're thinking about things, start coming up with solutions. Put pen to paper if you need to. Start drawing out a plan. Just like we discussed last year, doing an area study. S2 covered it. I think Monkey covered it. I think everybody covered it. Learn your community, learn your local area where you live, whether it's 2-3 of your neighborhood blocks or 5 or 6 of your city blocks. Learn your area, know where your assets are, know where tools are, know where equipment is, know where food and medication is going to be, and have a plan to deal with what you need to deal with, and use the tools that you have at your disposal to do that, accomplish that mission. I saw something yesterday, I think it struck me kind of hard, and it made complete and total sense. No major disaster, no natural disaster. This is a film, it's a movie. I'm not going to name which one because I'm not going to give Hollywood any credit at all. I'm done with Hollywood. But when the pharmacies start locking their doors and locking their windows, and they're standing there with a shotgun ready to shoot anybody that tries to get in, when civil services break down and a local natural disaster event occurs, man-made or natural, some kind of disaster, and that pharmacist and his employees are there ready to defend that pharmacy with their lives. There's certain people that are going to be able to get into that pharmacy and get the medications they need to stockpile for their own families. They're wearing badges and uniforms. The good guys. Don't think for a minute civil services break down. There's a societal collapse that there's going to be a 911 and a Walgreens down the street. Those cops, most chiefs of police, most chiefs of fire departments, most chiefs of medical service, emergency medical services, they've told their people. They've had this sit-down discussion with all their employees. If things go bad, like they do often in California with fires and earthquakes and other major events, riots, LA riots, go home and take care of your family. Get them to safety. Get them secured. Then grab your badge and your gun or your fire hose and your big red truck and come back to work. But don't show up to work until you make sure your own families are safe and secure and out of harm's way. Whether that takes an hour of an earthquake happening in a major city or even a rural area, or whether that takes 6 or 8 hours like it did in LA during the riots. Don't expect 911 to be there. Most of the 911 people are going to be running home to take care of their families. Don't expect the cops to come rescue you because they're going to be on their way to their wife's or their mom's house to take care of them. Give a shit less about you. Don't think the fire department's going to roll up in a big red truck and put your fire out. That truck's going to go right past you, and it's going to go to their wife, their mom, their dad, their kids, and then they're going to turn around and they're going to go to major critical infrastructure first. If your 7-Eleven's on fire, too bad. The hospital down the street is on fire. The post office is on fire. The fire department's on fire. They're going to go take care of critical infrastructure. That is a standing rule in probably 99, if not 100% of the United States. They're going to go take care of their own first. So we have to be self-reliant. And like I said the other night, it's getting to the point now we got to be our own police. We're going to have to be our own law enforcement because we can't rely on those that are paid to do it. Hell, if anything, we're all trying to avoid any contact. Even good law-abiding citizens that just go about their day, they're seeing all these abuses and these interactions, these contacts with cops, and how quickly they go bad because some guy wearing a badge doesn't have the fucking sack to be there in the first place, to do that job, to understand that it's a dangerous job. But just because it's dangerous doesn't mean whip your gun out and start shooting everybody. Or grandma's little 2-inch poodle. So people are starting to really realize that the less contact I have with law enforcement, the better. Now, I'm not saying don't call the cops if your life's being threatened or you're in danger or you're hurt or you need help. By all means. But understand, like Rick Gore says constantly, and I will drop his name in here. Good Luck America channel on YouTube, Rick Gore. Like he says all the time, once you make that phone call, once you get government involved, then be prepared for government to be involved. And sometimes they don't know when to quit being involved. Don't believe me? Look at grandma making a left turn out of a parking lot at a convenience store and going the wrong way down a street for a block and a half and confused because it's hard to see at night. And the street lights sometimes blind you and you didn't see the little island or the little divider in the big road in front of you. And you thought you were on the right side of the road. And grandma's going down the street. And the next thing you know, there's not 2 or 3 officers there to help her. There's 15 or 20 fucking cops there because they're bored and ain't got nothing else to do. And they're going to come surround her car and make it look like a felony stop just so they can stand around for an hour and a half and talk about their kid's fucking football game. And guys, I've been out there and I've seen and done this shit. I'm not a cop. I haven't been a cop, but I hung out with the bad guys and the good guys. I was there in the middle of all that shit. And I've seen these guys do this stuff. When government gets involved, sometimes government doesn't know their own limitations on how involved they need to be. We have laws that protect us. There's a division. There's a separation between civil and criminal. And when it's civil, law enforcement's hands off for the most part. Civil is civil. That's not criminal. Law enforcement's out there to handle criminal issues, although they can be there and present during civil confrontations. Civil matters, but it's not their job to police a civil matter. But sometimes they forget that. So a lot of normal, everyday Americans, law-abiding citizens, go to work, have a job, pay their taxes, own a firearm, are responsible. They have it locked up or do whatever they need. Their kids are good kids. Their kids aren't out running the streets. Their mom's not drinking and throwing bottles at cars going by off the porch. Their 2-year-old toddler is not out standing in front of 3 grown police officers on the street wearing a diaper that didn't look like he had a bath in 3 months, calling them cocksuckers and pigs and motherfuckers. And he's 2 years old in a diaper in the middle of the street, no parent around. These aren't those people. These are people that are responsible, socially and fiscally, responsible human beings. And they are starting to question having contact with law enforcement. Well, if I call the police and they show up, Jesus, how do I know they're not going to shoot me? How do I know they're not going to write me 3 tickets? You can't live in this country anymore without going through one day violating anywhere from 3 to 10 different laws. It's impossible not to violate one law per day. Think about that for a minute, guys. Think about that. Think about the last time you went through a whole day without violating at least one law. You went home, you got on the internet, you got on pirate this or that on the computer, you downloaded a movie because your kid taught you and showed you how, and you didn't think, no, that's a federal offense. You downloaded a movie, you pirated a film off the internet. There you go. There's your one law for the day. You get in your car, you drive down the street, you go to the store 3 miles from your house. There's not one person on this planet that will not violate at least one traffic law on the way there. It's impossible. We are a country overburdened with law and not burdened enough by common sense. And this is a podcast, my opinion. You guys can agree or disagree. I would love for you to tell me if you disagree, and we'll figure it out. We'll work this thing out. We'll do it together. But that's the thing. You call in, you and me will work this together. I may not like you. You might think I'm a scum ass. But we'll work together and we'll figure this out. And at the end of it, we'll walk away and both of us will be happy. Maybe one happier than the other. But it's just an opinion. It's the way I see things. I think most people see things similar to the way I see them. So, that being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and give my partner a phone call. Y'all get to hang tight and bear with me here for a minute. 15 minutes passed and I haven't heard from him. So, let me give him a call real quick. Having a very informal sit rep and discussion here, brother, but are you going to make it? Roger that. Yep. So he will be here in 5 minutes. He just walked in the door and he will be here in 5. He's firing up the computers and everything. He's got to fire up real quick. So that's awesome. We'll work this thing and make it happen. So somebody sent me a message in one of the other platforms asking if I could do a YouTube sit rep or podcast and kind of try to split it. Right now, we're live on YouTube. I'm looking up at the computer right now, and it says green light on YouTube. So we're actually live on YouTube. I don't know if they're recording over there. I'll have to check settings, make sure that they're recording. Maybe I don't want some of this recorded sitting out there waiting to be used against me. Or maybe somehow, some way, I don't give a shit if it is used. Nothing you say right now is not going to pass some level of scrutiny. Be careful what you say. Be careful who you talk to. But at the same time, don't go through your life full of fear. Have fun. I'm going to bring up the... that's the wrong. I'm going to bring up the Patreon real quick for you guys while we're waiting 5 minutes for Intrepid to get on her. So I'm going to bring something up here real quick. And I've got a whole lot of stuff here. So bear with me. Got a lot of open windows. I'm definitely burning bandwidth tonight. If you guys go to Patreon, those that are here that haven't signed up yet, this is where we do a lot of our data drops. This is a Patreon only post. It's not public. I don't have a problem with making it public, but right now, until this thing kind of has time to settle down, and these documents were just leaked this afternoon. I got them an hour after they were made public, after they were leaked, probably within an hour and a half, 2 hours before that. The guys were working on verifying all that information before they put it out. And then once it came out, and I was sent this information. I looked at it. I had to make my phone calls and emails. I didn't make any phone calls, but I made emails sharing it in secure email asking, is this verified and is this legit? If it is, I'll put it up. If it's not, I won't. I guess I'll just go ahead and read a part of this. I'm not going to read all of it. The subject of the data is clear. Anyone carrying a firearm is presumed to be carrying unlawfully. This is from the Legal Bureau, the NYPD, and the Office of the Mayor of New York City. New York City is one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful, local government in the United States of all our major cities. They are the most powerful. They've got a standing army in the NYPD, and a large portion of that standing army are counterterrorism trained. These guys are not walking around without going through some hard, difficult schooling to get where they got. They basically are pissed off at the Supreme Court. I'll just kind of give you a rough draft of this. They're pissed off at the Supreme Court.
Wrapped up in that.
And they are now going to make gun-free zones down through the city and Times Square and all the normal places that we have gun-free zones in every other city. Don't carry your gun in a federal building. Don't take it to the post office for those concealed carry people. Don't go in the post office with your gun on you. Leave it in your car. For those people out there that go to schools or universities or other public places where you're not permitted to carry a gun, New York suddenly realized that they had to abide by some law. So now they're going to start branding places gun-free zones. But ultimately what they're saying in this leaked document, a 5-page document, is everywhere it's a gun-free zone. And you still have to get our permission to have a gun. Screw the Supreme Court. And if you have a gun, you are going to be presumed carrying unlawfully. You're going to be accused of a crime and presumed of a crime without having the opportunity to present your ID, present your lawful carry permit card, and say, look, I'm lawful. I'm carrying legally. Some of these off-duty cops and these retired cops, they still carry, even in retirement. They still carry their retirement badge and their gun everywhere they go. They're exempted from all this, by the way. I just want you guys to know that law enforcement's considered part of the elite, that special class, and you pesky citizens are not part of this. Law enforcement exemption, all 4 of these bottom pages talk about that. So if you guys go to Patreon and pay $5 a month, that's all it costs. You get access to our Discord data drop, our channels. We have lots of channels and a ton of information dropped over there. I'm going to start dropping the green-haired monsters in the child exploitation channel. We're going to start, exploring more of that cultural trend that's happening right now with these people in their dyed green hair. There's going to be that's probably going to be a little bit in the Patreon and a little bit in Discord. And some of the more sensitive stuff will be here in Patreon, not Discord. But $5 a month gets you access to this. There's 3 tiers. The cheapest one is $5. For those that want to donate a little more for our hard work here, you could throw us a $7 or $10 or $12 on that per month, and that helps us get through and pay the bills on all this. And one of these days, I'll break down the costs of everything that we're doing so that you guys have a more clear picture. I do have a list. It's not updated, but how much it costs to do this just for 6-8 hours a day. So $5 a month gets you Patreon, and Patreon, once you join, I will send you a direct link to Discord where you can get on our private server. It may take a day or two. We do look at everybody before we just throw somebody in there. We do our homework, guys. So a lot of the guys here have backgrounds in intelligence and security. So yes, we take that very serious. If we want to look into somebody, make sure that they're not a Yahoo and a nutcase and a school shooter, and they're going to come join our Discord and cause havoc. Yeah, we're going to do our due diligence there. I'm going to put up here a phone number real quick for everybody on the stream, on the live screen, so everybody who wants to call in can. After that, I'll put up a PayPal. That's another option for donating to our team here for the work we're doing. And then we are American Legionnaire. Intrepid is on board. He finally made it back. And the discussion's been a lot about space weather tonight. I covered some of the constitutional stuff, how pissed off I am about law enforcement and the failure to do the job that they're paid to do. I went into a little bit of information about population density and places that are safe to be. Colorado. I'll bring that map up here in a minute again. There's places you can be and places you don't want to be in a natural or man-made disaster scenario. So, and then I started out with reading out of Revelation 6, chapter 6, verse 1 through up to chapter 7. Speaking of the seven seals and the four horsemen of the apocalypse, kind of what I covered there, Intrepid.
Good.
Got a good sound check on you. I can hear you just fine. So if you want to,
no, I finally got it in. I'm at my my old stomping grounds with my grandkids and two of my boys and all my alcoholic buddies. So you know what trouble we could cause.
how did yesterday go? Did you guys have fun?
Yeah, no, it's great. I'm enjoying it. I'm leaving Sunday morning. I got to go down to, God help me, San Diego, pick up a bunch of boat parts. But yeah, one of the things I obviously I missed it all, but one of the things I was talking about tonight where I was the hypocrisy over all this climate change BS. That's a big bone at the big discussion area out here. You know, we need to be walking. Why? Who was it? Leonardo DiCaprio took his private jet to a polo match and put his horses and his stuff on a 18-wheeler to get there. But we need to walk. Give me a break.
Unbelievable.
Well, we have the power, and people just don't understand that. We are controllable because we're predictable. You know, as I said the other day, if at any one given month, if 1 million people took a mortgage holiday, it would destroy the banking system in this country. But nobody's willing to do that. So,
yeah, that's correct. You know, and in the abuse of the tax code, you know, that's an easy one to find a solution to as well.
Yeah. Well, and you don't have to do anything. There's no law that says that, gee, I was short this month. I couldn't pay the bill. Sorry. What are they going to do? Nothing. But maybe the best way to survive what's coming is to be somewhat unpredictable. Don't follow the same route every day. Do something different.
Yep. All right, I'm going to download this real quick.
Sure, go for it.
And I want you to see this map, Intrepid, and I'm going to kind of, in about less than one sentence, I'm going to explain what I was explaining to our team here about what this map represents. So this map is almost identical to the Department of Defense map of safe zones, non-safe zones to be in the event of a global natural disaster like a solar event or a asteroid, so to speak. Anytime where the ocean levels are going to rise suddenly and extremely high, we're talking hundreds of feet high, and swamp all the coastlines. And I just noticed this box, which Ben over at Suspicious Observers calls the New Valley of the Sun. He lives right about here in Colorado. And I know every bit of this area in this box. And he just made this video today, put it out. And the third time he's done it, he does it about once, roughly around once a year. And he puts out a video explaining what could happen, the different scenarios with the ocean levels in an immediate climatic event. Our magnetic field fails, collapses. Our poles shift. We have a weakening of our protective magnetic shield around the planet. Poles flip. The sun is able to react with our minerals and elements in our planet, causing earthquakes, volcanoes. Not only just the pole shift, but the tectonic plate shifts, and basically the ocean just swamping us. And he said, there's places to go here in these boxes where there's caves and underground protection, as well as you're high enough in elevation to avoid the lowlands where the oceans may swamp and overtake the land again. So I kind of discussed a little bit of that. I played the 6.5 minute video that Ben did. And that's about it. That was a lot longer than one sentence.
No, that's pretty neat. It appears as though we are in the box. The only thing I would suggest, though, is when you actually put this out to the public at large, you remove that box and put the box over, I don't know, California. Let them all go there.
Well, that'll be on a different channel.
Yeah, just say, this is the safe zone, people. Head to
San Francisco. There's a reason. There's a very good, solid reason why. There are a lot of people that work in the military and the intelligence community that are getting away from the coastlines. A lot of folks are over there in Maryland and Virginia, and they just love their house too much to leave. But don't think for a minute they don't have plans on bugging out when the time comes. They do. I've talked to a few buddies over there, and yeah, they're ready to head west. Make like a pioneer and get off that eastern coastline. You got to go west just far enough before you get to stupid. So stop at the Nevada-California state line. You'll be fine.
Yeah. So the question I've had with people, and I don't know if you discussed this, obviously it'd be better off to bug out before things happen. But let's say you didn't. You know what hits the fan? What do you do? Do you leave right away? Do you wait 72 hours and see what happens and then take off? What are you suggesting?
Well, pay attention. Follow the sit reps. Follow the data. Listen to the people who are not going to lead you wrong. I always say it. Be careful who you follow. There's a lot of people that are ready to jump up on a rooftop and scream, Armageddon, Armageddon, hallelujah. The British are coming. They're ready to do it tomorrow. And sometimes they do it every day on their podcast. I'm not ready to go there yet. But as things start to deteriorate even further, you'll see it coming. You're not going to be blinded unless you're following all the wrong people. Make your own decision. Make your own plans. Use the tools you have at your disposal. If you have a decent budget you can put towards an evacuation plan, do that. Buy less cheesecake. Buy more ammo. Take your maps. Take your area study paperwork and your hand-drawn maps and your city and state and U.S. map. Get it down there and get it laminated at the FedEx store or Kinko's or wherever you go to laminate. That way, when you put it in your bag and it's in there and it rains really hard and all your shit gets wet, your map's not ruined. I know my way around this country without a map. I've been around it too many times to not have memorized most of it. But that said, I still got a map, and I'm still going to have to fall back on that if I bump my head and I forget something. So think of these things and plan ahead. If you see that the dollar is getting ready to shit and you notice the panic in Washington, D.C., and you see Jean-Pierre up there making a total horse's ass of herself, and then this time she's being more of a nervous horse's ass, more than usual, answering questions with more questions, more than usual, not answering anything that a reporter asked her. You see Biden start stumbling over not only his own mouth, talking to a 9-year-old little kid, calling him baby, bragging about how they're going to be double digits. He did that yesterday in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Didn't sit right with a lot of people, I'm sure. But of all the people in the crowd, he wanted to talk to the 9-year-old little girl because that's what a predator does. They can't help themselves. If you see these people start panicking and acting weird, or Biden goes on another extended 2-week COVID vacation where he's not seen or heard from, start putting it together. Start thinking about what's going to happen or what's going on. Come to our platform and go to other platforms. Start getting your air intelligence, your military intelligence, ground-based intelligence, weather intelligence. Look at the leaks that have happened in the last 24 to 48 hours. Pay attention to Pacemen and other platforms that put up and post all the documentation. And we'll sound the alarms when it's time to go. We will. We'll sound the alarms. But we're not going to go sounding alarms when it's not time to go. So that's something that's going to take a lot of work on our part to make sure that we're not sending everybody out to the middle of the United States for no reason. So plan ahead. Start planning that now. Do you own a fifth wheel? Do you own a diesel pickup to pull the fifth wheel, or do you have an RV motorhome? Is it running? Have you checked the fluids? Have you checked the axles on it? Check the tires. Don't go looking for tires for your fifth wheel or your RV 4 days ahead of time to leave, because you're going to have a hell of a time even finding tires 4 weeks ahead of time, let alone 4 days. Do these things now. Start putting together all your equipment and gear. Do it on the down low. Don't do things so obvious to where you start spooking your neighbors or your other family members. Do things on the down low. Do it quietly. You got anything to add to that, Intrepid?
No, well, first of all, it's kind of an observation. I think it's kind of interesting that completely random, you and I are not only in that box, but we probably live about, 300 miles from each other?
I'm about roughly a 6.5 hour, 7 hour if I take my time drive from you, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we ended up in the same place, so...
and never having talked about it before now.
No, yeah, but I'm just thinking in terms of if things really go bad and everybody's out trying to evacuate. Do you wait a few days and then discreetly take off if you haven't got ahead of everybody, or do you go with the crowd? It certainly, I think, is, I think that the borders will be closed. I think your only chance of getting past borders are going to be to say, I have family or some reason to go, and not just, I'm just going to the middle of the country. I can't imagine, like the California border. I can't imagine that being open.
Well, they've already got their border. They've already got their border patrol. They've already got their border patrol in the form of agriculture set up on all their roadways, egress and ingress into the state.
Yeah.
They're already set up to do that.
I mean, nobody's going to go into
Legitimately, they did that for agricultural reasons to keep bugs out of the state, so they didn't have.
What a bunch of.
Yeah,
bunch
you don't
of
want
BS.
to destroy an entire state's ability to grow food, and I understand that. I completely agree with it. I do not agree with some of the powers that agricultural department was given, that they have a right to search your vehicle without a warrant. You can kiss my ass. So, yeah. But the going from state to state, that's intelligence on the go, guys. That's human intelligence, signals intelligence. You're listening to the radio. You're paying attention to the news. You're talking to people as you go in the truck stop to get gas or get fuel. You're standing there in line waiting to cash out at the register, intentionally listening to everyone around you, picking up on hints, picking up on conversations. The truck driver talking about snow up on the mountain or a bad accident ahead. That's good practice for now. But then those truck drivers are going to be talking about, you can't get through the border patrol crossing unless you have this, and this, and you need to know what this, and this is. Maybe you don't want to go up and approach that truck driver or that traveler and ask them directly, how do I get across? How do I get across? If you just listen and gather your intelligence quietly, and then of course, you got to confirm what intelligence you're getting. So maybe you do find maybe a different person that's less aggressive looking, a softer person that may be like you, listening and being, low key. Go talk to that person and find out what they know. And unfortunately, the criminal element on the street, they always know what's going on. But I don't suggest you go to the criminal element to get your human intelligence if you can avoid that.
Yeah, I mean, I outside of maybe moving on my sailboat, I don't plan to, unless I absolutely have to move. I think I'm in a secure enough place. So the question then becomes, do you stay put or do you flee? Right now where I'm at, and I dare say where you're at, you probably stay put. But if you're in a city area, coastal area, oh my God. I don't think staying put's an option.
Yeah, absolutely not. And then even if you're in that area, in that box, and at some point that box becomes compromised, the advice that I give everybody without going into a 3-hour explanation as to why, because it's hard to convince people really to go to a polar region, especially people that don't like the cold. But if you're going to go anywhere in the lower 48 states and you're going to go a direction towards safety, unless China takes over Canada, go north. Always go north. The way the poles may swap, the way that this is being projected, not just by Ben and these other scientists, but by NASA in general, the way that they expect these poles to end up, the North Pole and the South Pole are going to become tropics. Now, this is not the first time this has happened. You can go to the North and the South Pole and you can find fossilized plant life. There was tropical regions and polar regions in other places in our world at one time. But right now, the best thing to do is go north. That's why the elites have the United States military in Norway and New Zealand both building underground bunker compounds as big as small cities. They're building these places. I don't know how they're doing it in New Zealand because that's a very rocky island from my understanding. And northern Norway is very rocky as well. But they are building, and they're building them now. They're finishing up actually right now. They've been working on these for the last 12 years. Obama's kind of the one that got it all rolling, building these underground compounds, these structures. And these are not built for you and me. These are built for the elites, and the excuse to spend the money and the funding and hide the money and the funding that they're spending to do this is a Russian invasion of Europe. Has nothing to do with that. Not a fucking thing to do with that. I promise you, Biden and Putin are going to be sitting side by side, eating popcorn, sucking on each other's dicks when shit hits the fan. And if Zelensky toes the road, toes the line enough, he might be invited.
Yeah.
Sorry about the language, guys. That I've been on here for a little over 2 hours at least. So, do you have any other topic? I wanted to go into that little conversation Biden had yesterday with the people of Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and his ignorant comment using the F-15 as a threat against the 2A community again in the United States. I thought was pretty funny. Little does he know you can't fly an F-15 Eagle without gas.
Sure you can. Long extension cord.
That would be a really long extension cord.
Yep. Made in China, no doubt. Yeah, well, you know, we're being controlled by idiots. That's what it comes down to. People know that, but we put up with it. So,
and it boils down to we are being dumbed down by the bigger dummies in ourselves.
Yep.
And the media, thank God for Project Veritas exposing this vice principal up in Connecticut. I did drop some of that in the Discord because I didn't think it was that very important enough to put in the Patreon. So I opened it up to all the Discord folks as well. But Project Veritas, I think, and maybe some of the people at Fox News are the only people doing any journalism right now.
Yeah.
By definition.
Well, you know, the government is poised to fight
live
against
right now on the use the link. What's that?
It seems to me that the government is well situated to combat active resistance, but they really are not for passive resistance. You know, you don't have to go out and actively break the law, but you don't have to go out of your way to follow it either. Just like the mortgage holiday and everything else, you're not really breaking any law. I mean, you know, how did the Brits leave India? How do all these empires fail? Because people just they become irrelevant to the average person.
And I heard that from you a long time ago. It seems like to me, years ago anyway. That it doesn't matter when it's irrelevant. It really doesn't. I really preached that about Facebook, and I told people if you will get off the Facebook nipple and stop sucking that free welfare Facebook titty, trying to earn your Facebook keyboard warrior medal of valor. I think that's a little blue and white ribbon that goes up here with a little F right in the middle of it, and a thumbs up and a middle finger.
Is
If you
that
get off of Facebook and stop using these platforms, you make them irrelevant. And by being irrelevant, they start losing a lot of money. Problem is, nobody got off Facebook. Facebook's still making a lot of money. And with a lot of money came a lot of bad decisions, like doing what the FBI strongly advised them to do.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, well. Yeah, but
Facebook.
Passive resistance. That's the way to go. Just don't put
I
up
was
with
on
it.
I was on my computer earlier, and Parler's still out there. Magabook, I think, is no longer. I couldn't log in. There's several others. I don't have them all here in front of me, but True Social, Parler, Wimkin, actually did a little bit of work without him really knowing we were doing some work, but we helped out the guy that started Wimkin out of Pennsylvania. I'm not going to say where, but the guy that's, unless he wants to, the guy that started Wimkin, it's almost identical to Facebook. It's pretty neat, and Twitter. So it's like having an alternative where you could say COVID-19 and vaccination, and you could still come on the next day and say it again. You're not going to be banned. You're not going to be treated like a 2-year-old. And they only got 2 rules. Don't come on there selling bullshit and hacking people, and don't bring any pornography on the site. If you abide by those 2 rules, you're not going to get kicked off there, even if you're a leftist lunatic. You'll just get ignored and laughed at if you're a left-wing idiot. So that's why Twitter survives, is because the left wing can't help themselves when they're offended and snowflake. They have to react, and they have to be overly dramatic when they do it. But then they come over to Parler and Wimkin and these other more conservative social platforms, and we just ignore them. And after a minute or two, they're like, no one here gives a shit what I have to say. I guess I'll go back to Twitter. So, yeah, government's not going to be relevant if people don't recognize government as having a relevancy.
As you might know, when I was in the Army as the world's worst infantry officer, my battalion commander at the time was a Lieutenant Colonel Jack Keane, also a Fordham graduate, and he's what was he, a 4-star general? But he used to tell me all the time, he'd say, if you're leading, you got to look behind you and see if people are actually still following you.
Exactly.
Because they may not. They may decide to go off in a totally different direction. So, yeah. I'll admit I stay on Facebook because I like to troll and cause trouble.
There's a member of our community that was in an award ceremony back before Mr. Milley became a two-faced pile of shit with a white rage and his inner racist demon issue. And, of course, misbehavior in front of the enemy, which is a punishable offense. I'll just leave it at that. Her and her husband, who's I'm not going to mention names, guys, but Green Beret community, and Mama's just as much a Green Beret as he is. She'll never tell you that, but it takes a hell of a woman to be with a man that does that for a living. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
And, they sat next to General Milley. I believe back before he. Well, no, I think he made Lieutenant General, but they were. They sat next to the man in an award ceremony and had a normal conversation with the guy long before he became a bought and sold deep state pile of shit. And just, for general knowledge, everybody here in the stream, I've talked to, I don't know, I can't give you a number. I've talked to a lot of guys in the Green Berets, Special Forces, Army, Special Forces, all Green Berets, and some of the other communities and the other branches. And everybody that I've talked to, except for one guy who's choosing to remain neutral in this situation for reasons that he's pursuing a career and rank advancement and doesn't want to have an opinion where it could be used against him later on against his commanding general. And I get it. I totally understand that. And I'm not going to give the guy a hard time, but every single other guy who I talked to who went through the Q course and qualified special forces, and a lot of Rangers as well, all agree after what happened in Kabul at HKIA, the airport, the man is on a shit list that he probably will and should not ever recover from. And that said, that kind of goes with James Janos. People know him as Jesse Ventura, the wrestler and Minnesota governor. I call him James Janos because he doesn't deserve to have a title. A lot of people agree or disagree with what his side of the story is, what happened down in Southern California at a little bar called McPee's. I have my opinion on it, but a guy like that will probably not go to many more Bud's graduation speeches and ceremonies, or probably not going to attend too many more annual get-togethers. And these people have a way of weeding themselves out just by opening their fucking mouth. And Millie did that several times, but the last time I saw him do that, where I took personal offense to it, was his comments prior to the shit that went down in Kabul and shortly thereafter concerning critical race theory in our military and how racist our troops in uniform are and how bad and terrible everybody is. If he feels that way, he's more than welcome to take his uniform off, and we'll put it in a burn barrel, 55-gallon drum, and send him back and probably drop him off in Syria somewhere. He can go be with the rest of those people out there that are concerned about their white rage. You know, the guy admits to Congress that he has an issue with white rage and he wants to understand it. So basically, our chairman of the Joint Chiefs basically told everybody, including God and the Son, that he was a racist. So I hear little people.
Yeah, grandkids, dogs. They're all running around out here.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. Yep. We've had some informal discusussions about school. Put it that way.
Yeah. Well, it's time to take your kids out of public school, period.
Oh, I agree.
End of story. I mean,
well,
you know what? I've known you a long time, Intrepid, and you did something with your boys that I wish every parent had the means to do. And your boys are brilliant. I mean, these kids are, I'm going to tell the community here, and I'm going to brag a little bit because I know these boys since they were a little younger than they are now. These kids are brilliant. These kids got minds of the likes of some of the most amazing scientists and engineers on this planet. These guys can take nothing and make something. These kids have skills. They have knowledge, and not only do they have an education, they got a hands-on education. They didn't read about it in a book. They went up and they touched it. Their dad took them around the world for, a couple years? At least a year and a half?
Yeah, it was about a year. Yeah.
He took the boys around for a year and said, you want to learn you want to learn history, politics, religion, everything else, here you go. And they're very successful kids. All three of them are very, very brilliant, very smart, and they're going to do a lot of good things. A lot of good things. So I wanted to brag a little bit on the boys. Hope you don't mind.
No, that's great. Thank you. Yeah. And I don't think any of them like the potato either.
Well, you can't love children or love something like that too. I think only Dr. Gildo can justify even being that close to him every day, and that's because stupid bitch is married to him. She don't have a choice. So I noticed the Secret Service guys that are on his detail, they sure stand a long way away from him. They didn't do that with Trump. They didn't do that with Bush or Obama. But they do a lot of that with this guy. I don't know if maybe they don't change his diaper enough, or that leftover oatmeal on his chin starting to get a little sour. I'm not sure, but I noticed they keep their distance. And, you know, I'm that guy. I'm one of those people that picks up on those small details. I'm not
No.
going to condone violence of any kind, but it's almost like they would rather take the day off and leave the idiot standing there in the middle of the White House lawn. At least I hope so.
Now that we're in a more informal part of this, last night I had a beer or 2 or 3 with T-Bone. So that was kind of fun. Yep.
Yeah, he's here. Here, let me add him so we can see if he took his phone case off.
Oh, it's okay.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, right. No, but he got to meet my youngest son, Cody.
Hold on, I got to put my shirt on.
Oh, geez.
Oh, you don't need to turn your camera on, bro. There's already 2 ugly guys here.
No. Said put his shirt on. We're teasing him about that.
I'm not going to tease him. I don't even have any pants on, so it's one of those nights I'm just not wearing pants.
Ay, what a
A lot of fun last night, and I was a pleasure meeting you in person.
Yeah.
I figured you guys would have wound up at the shop working on a car.
Well, he was showing me some of his cars, yeah.
Or putting wings on an airplane or something.
Yeah, no, I was impressed. I like that. And then today I was posting all sorts of stuff on Discord. I thought you'd get a kick out of the history of French War.
I did. I'd like to see more Napoleonic War historical data posted up on it. I love that shit. I read it. Nothing bothers me, man. It's knowledge. If there was 3 books that I would suggest anybody read right now, and I've got about 7 or 10 of them that I would love everybody to read. But if I had to pick only 3 books, and I think we'll do a round table here, and I hope we lost Burke. Hopefully he'll come back on here in a minute. I want to do around the table 3 books. What 3 books would you suggest people read? And I'll go first. My first book would be any book on history concerning the war and the conflict surrounding Napoleon. War and Peace would be a good start. You mentioned that the other night. I would suggest the second book be anything written by Che Guevara. Ho Chi Minh, or any of these other military leaders that wrote any book concerning guerrilla warfare. Study that, listen and learn from that, because there may come a time in the near future that you have to take into serious consideration those tactics just to walk to the store and get bread, let alone try to take back a territory or a region to defend your country, and how to make the enemy lose their morale and find it too difficult to put up a fight to where they lose their motivation and they just say fuck it and leave, like the cowards we have in the White House. And the third book that I would suggest anybody pick up and read, just because it'll make you a better, sharper warrior, obviously Sun Tzu, The Art of War. But don't just pick up Sun Tzu, Art of War alone. Pick up the Holy Bible, and both of those together, you are a deadly artifact. Right now, you're a deadly instrument, a surgical instrument. If you die, you'll be an artifact. But hopefully, one of those 2 books will keep you from getting dead, like Dan Bongino says.
I was just going to say a War and Peace and Sun Tzu.
Sun Tzu, Art of War. You got to come up with your own books now, pal.
Well, those are 2 that I was thinking of while you were talking.
Well,
and
think a few more.
Then you spoke both of them.
Yeah, I don't know what I would read.
Oh, come on. You're a philosophy major. I know.
Yeah, well, okay. So Solzhenitsyn is kind of interesting. Of course, Thoreau on Walden Pond is interesting. And you're
going to have to explain that for her. That's a lot of That's up there, man.
We got to read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe too, of course.
Yeah, there's a lot of lessons in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids with Rick Moranis, too. There's a lot of valuable lessons. Great movie.
Yeah. No, Walden, Henry David Thoreau is a student of Ralph Waldo Emerson. In his book he wrote in the 1840s entitled On Walden Pond, he talked about that. He said, he wanted to suck the marrow out of life. He wanted to experience all that it could give to him. Being cold, being tired, being hungry. So instead of being in the stadium watching, he was out there doing it the best he could.
I was surprised Mark Twain didn't come up here. Is that one of yours also? Would you suggest a good read of Mark Twain?
Oh, well, a lot of them you can't read anymore. I mean, Mark Twain was a satirist, but, Huck Finn and those things, Tom Sawyer, they're all on the banned book list.
Yeah, well, that's okay. After they burn our books, we'll burn them and we'll get our books back.
Yeah.
But guess what? I'm already buying them up, so I got a copy.
Well, what are your 3 books, brother, besides the 2 I picked already?
I got to think about it.
All right.
I almost want to say a military manual, but
I got another book that was written by a man who, let me be careful in how I approach this topic, because there may be some people in here, especially in the Denver area, that might be a little sensitive to what I'm about to bring up in here. And if we had a large following, I'm sure we'd lose 1 or 2 people over it. There's a couple of books, but one that was written by a guy who started out as pissed off at women. He became a male chauvinist, thought of himself as an alpha male, did live by a lot of the alpha ethos. He was a strong person, not somebody you'd want to tangle with in a fight on the street. He was not a weak man. But in the end, he wound up deciding that it was worth ending his life by going on a shootout, shooting innocent people in a Denver area, and then getting in a shootout with the cops. And somehow his head got twisted, and he thought that was a brilliant thing to do. But before he went sideways and got all stupid, he did write a book. And I'm looking for that book right now. I don't suggest reading it and taking all the knowledge in the book to heart any more than you would read Mein Kampf by Adolf Hitler, which is, believe it or not, most people won't read it because of what it is and the stigma. But it's actually a very good book. It's very difficult to read, but it's a very, very, very good book to understand the human condition in the very least. And I can't find that book, but I promise I will bring that book up next time we're here, guys, and make sure I have it in front of me. There's another book, and this, somebody's going to laugh here in a minute, but it's a great book. You guys could look up and read. You can get it on Kindle. It's called Mike the Dog's Super Big Flying Rolling Jump by Tim.
Yeah, that was funny.
And I have that book right here in front of me, and it's a good read. It's a kid's book, but there's a lot of value and knowledge in it.
Yeah. Well, talking a completely different subject here.
All right. Good thing. Good thing.
Huh?
No action relief.
No, I was just talking to Matt here in the corner of my ear. So I didn't realize that, a lot of these hedge funds and so forth, because of COVID, their margin calls were delayed. In other words, they didn't have to come up with the cash for their bad bets. That all ends tomorrow.
Good. And that's
so come Monday, evidently there may be a lot of hedge funds and businesses out there are going to lose their shorts when they can't come up with the money to pay off their debts.
How long do they have? 30 days or 90 days, or what's their deadlines on that with interest?
I think think it's like 2+5, so probably by the end of the week.
I think it's 2 + 5, so the end of the week.
Oh, nice.
It might be a bloodbath come Monday in the
Good.
stock market.
I hope there's fist fights on Wall Street and Main Street. I'm all about it right now, bro. Let's get it on.
Yeah. Well, I've heard of all the evidently there's a rash of Russian higher ups that are jumping out of windows lately or falling out of windows. So maybe that will happen with Wall Street
the Russian Intelligence Directorate possibly may have died, and the CEO and the head executive of Luke Oil in Russia, the guy who just got told by the Department of Justice that he can't take his plane out of Russia anymore because if he does to a friendly state, it's going to be seized along with all his assets because of something that had happened in 2014 with Ukraine. So now they're going to seize all his shit. And not sure if that's related, but it's a coincidence that 12 hours after the DOJ announces it in a federal court that they have permission to seize his assets. Of course, they have to get him first, but 12 hours later, the guy's dead. Another window incident.
I think he got murdered. I think he got pushed out that window.
Yeah.
I think he called Putin an asshole on the phone and somebody showed up to hand him his bill. I wouldn't doubt it. Because before this whole Ukraine shit and with Putin, Luke Oil CEO executive and all their aircraft and their assets wouldn't have even been a second thought at the Department of Justice. Not at this point.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I'm going to stay away from windows.
Well, and four-way intersections and aircraft. You know how they like to take people out of their airplanes.
That's right. Yeah, I don't want to be Clintonized.
Yeah.
So, talking about old Clinton, she's been kind of off the radar of sorts.
Well, no, about a week and a half ago, she popped up with her offspring, the daughter of the other lawyer, not Bill.
Oh, yeah.
Chelsea.
The one that's married to the Rothschild guy?
Yeah,
Yep.
the daughter of a partner in the law firm who also died mysteriously. It's amazing how many people just keep dying around this lady. It's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Ay, ay, ay.
Well, those that are trying to get any kind of Patriot books, Pipe Hitter's Guide to Crushing the Coming Societal Breakdown by Nicholas Orr. You go and try to get that, and I don't think it's going to pop up. Google's controlling Kindle, so you can't get that book. You know, it's a terrorist handbook. But you can still get all the Army manuals, the Marine Corps manuals, and all the other soldier manuals. You can get those on Kindle. You're not going to pick up one of these manuals and read it and really understand kind of without some kind of, classroom instruction with it. So if you folks out there have any friends or neighbors or, kid down the street that was in the military recently within the last 15, 20 years, grab him up and ask him to kind of go through, some of your manuals if you pick them up or grab a hold of them. Suggest you read them first and try to understand what's in it before you ask them to come help you learn more about it. But there's a lot of good information in the military manuals. They're not my go-to because there's a lot of civilian aftermarket, non-military approved books out there that you can get a lot better detail and less formal. They're written in a way that the military's never been able to figure out how to write anything. So they're a lot simpler to understand to the layman.
To phase 6 of initial margin requirements, they're going to raise the margin.
I do have a suggestion. If you guys have kids for 8 years old, can you guys hear me okay?
We can hear you.
The Rush Limbaugh books, the First Patriots and the Declaration of Independence, the whole set, I have read them all, and my kids are reading them. and it is very well put together. It is awesome, and it's true history.
And
And
it's a tribute to Rush Limbaugh, who's a hero of mine.
it's actually they are put into chronological order, and it's more towards kids because it's like his horse Rush Revere is a time traveling horse. He goes whoosh back in onto the Mayflower on the deck in the storm. You know,
Can you still get those books online from the Rush Limbaugh EIB
uh,
network?
I don't know. I believe so. I got mine on Amazon.
Okay. I bet we can probably look that up on the computer. I'm not going to do it right now. I'm kind of got a bunch of stuff here in front of me.
They're wonderfully accurate and wonderfully put together. I mean, they're towards age 10, but my kids are 7, 8 years old, and they love it.
That's
It's
awesome.
information.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
are
Sorry,
at-
guys. I've been
no, it's
chatting
fine. I
away
think
over here.
we're all kind of looking at stuff, looking up stuff for our followers here. It's
Yeah.
about 20 till 10. I think we're going to call it unless you guys got anything else that you want to bring up. Tomorrow,
No.
between now and tomorrow night, I'm going to have that recorded sit rep done. I already have everything set up to do it. I just have not, and it'll be a lot better than me, doing it on the fly like I did tonight. And I'll get on a rant when I'm doing it live like this. And I know my buddy's not going to be here for another 2 hours. So I get to just speak openly and free and take my time and try to cover all the different aspects of a subject. But the recorded sit rep I'll have out tomorrow. And I'm working on a lot of things here, guys. It's kind of been a little tough with the money, but we're working it out. And I am definitely going to do a real solid sit rep for you guys tomorrow. Kind of what's going on with this New York Legal Bureau, NYPD, and Office of the Mayor shit. Some of the solar stuff. I'll go into a little more in-depth detail on that with the slides. I got the slides to put up so I can kind of explain things as I'm doing it. And then we'll cover some more of the FBI Mar-a-Lago thing. Things are looking good and bad. So tune in tomorrow for the recorded sit rep. And I know there's been a lot of folks that work at this time of day that have mentioned that they couldn't jump on because they were busy, being working Americans busting their butts. So we will have a few recorded shows through the week. And I'm also going to leave these sit reps up for everybody in the StreamYard here. So if you go to YouTube, you may not be able to bring up the videos. I'll have to go and check settings and try to see if I can bring those up. But what they'll do is they'll penalize me or try to block me or ban me or kill me or assassinate me or Clintonize me for saying the wrong thing. So I take most of the videos down, but they're safe here in StreamYard. I just went and cleared out a lot of our older videos, but these videos will be stored in StreamYard. So if you come to the StreamYard using the link, you should be able to see those. If you have any issues with that, just message me, email me, send a message through Patreon Messenger or the Discord. Just let me know so I can get on and look at it and see what I need to do differently.
By the way, Chris, Abraham.
Yo.
I did send you one or two of those books, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. I have them right here on the bookshelf in front of me, bud.
If you want to show them, that be much appreciated. They're really good books. Really.
I will. Most of the folks we got here, followers of Rush Limbaugh, are familiar, but I will, for those that are not aware, I'll bring them up in the next podcast. Probably the Sunday night show. I think we'll bring it up.
Well, the next.
Dude, have you actually read it yet?
No, I have not, brother.
Before you bring it up, just read the first couple of chapters. See what I'm talking about.
I got about 50 books here I read and about 50 books. I got a book up here I've had for a few years that I never had a chance to read called Boy Clinton. It's about Bill Clinton, written forever ago. Belongs to a friend. I've had that book on the shelf and never read it. Been meaning to forever and ever. I've made every legitimate excuse in the world why I haven't. But you guys got anything else?
No, I'm going to be traveling, so it's hit or miss for me the next 5-6 days until I'm back to Colorado.
Yep, no worries.
But, I'll let you know where I'm at tomorrow. I'll drop a few websites on Discord about Wall Street and the financial thing.
Okay.
I guess come October 1st, the Fed is now going to require that banks have larger cash reserves. So that's going to be a big issue for liquidity. If you want to hit the ATM, hit it before October 1st. Otherwise, just don't be predictable.
Exactly. Don't be predictable and, well, barter and trade and buy in small amounts and deal with people you know.
Yeah, if there's one thing that schooling attempts to do is to make the entire population predictable and controllable. So when you just decide to wander off to the left instead of to the right, they don't know what the hell to do with you. So you just need to be a little more unpredictable, and I think you'll increase your chances of survival a lot more right now.
I've been wanting to do that for a while. I just haven't, so I've been dropping it in general. But I'll go ahead and create another channel on Discord server for financial and market intelligence. I will put that in there so you can drop those. You'll just make sure you look for that channel in there. It'll be probably at the very bottom, but
Okay.
I'll add that one in there.
Yeah, sounds good.
T-Bone used to post a lot of funny stuff in there in the Hey, That Ain't Funny, Bro channel, but
Yeah, I did.
he hasn't in a while, so you need to quit slacking, brother.
Oh, we have a That Ain't Funny?
Got a bunch of shit to go in there.
Yeah, we got the That Ain't Funny, Bro. That's the channel for people that want to post off the wall sideways shit that's not appropriate for the live stream.
Discord?
Yeah, Discord. And anybody that doesn't have a Discord link for our channel here, just shoot me a message and let me know. Let me go check the messages real quick. Phone hasn't rang. I don't see any messages pending on it, so I don't think we got any calls. I do have a lot of emails stacking up on me here, but
Oh, by the way, the guy that sends me that stuff is 82-year-old ham radio operator. Anybody who wants to know, his call sign is WA6OVP.
Whiskey
the what?
Alpha
Whose call sign? What?
Whiskey, it's hold on a minute.
What is this for?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the ham guys like me, we wear our ham operator call sign as a badge of honor, but I think you probably don't want to let people know that.
yeah,
Be as discreet as possible.
Yeah, that's just another government agency that can track you by, simple
hell
set
yeah.
of numbers and letters.
Yep.
Personally,
Yep.
I'm of the same attitude and opinion that Rick Gore is over at Good Luck America. Look, folks, you don't want to go get a ham license because you're going to be on a list. You don't want to get a drone license because you have to go register. You'll be on a list. You don't want to get a CCW because you're going to have to go down and put your name on a piece of paper and be on a list. Look, folks, the United States government knows every single person in the United States, who you are, where you're at, what you're doing at all times. The mass surveillance state is beyond understanding for most people. And as well, the mass surveillance state isn't even really where it begins. It begins with your social security number, your birth certificate. Then you go to the DMV, you sign up for selective service, you get your driver's permit, you get your driver's license, you go down and get a bank loan. You're a paper trail nightmare waiting to happen. So if you're worried about going and getting your ham radio license or your CCW, don't worry about it. You're already on a list.
Yep.
Now it's just an excuse not to go and do it. So if you want to go get the knowledge behind the ham radio and how to operate it, go get the license. take the classes or self-study at home. Go down and pay $15, take your test, get your license, study more after that. Go to some of the club classes. If you can stand being around all the Democrats in the ham radio community, go to some of the meetings and start playing around and messing around with your radio. And if you're like me, probably should get 2 radios. They're cheap. They're $20-$30. You can sometimes get 2 radios, 2 antennas, 2 cords, 2 everything for like $50-$60 on Amazon. Go get 2 radios. So when you break one, because if you're like me, you'll definitely break one. You'll have a backup.
Yeah, I got to get one for for Colorado. I have one on the sailboat, and that's actually kind of fun.
I think you got your ham general. Don't you have your general?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can use that on land too.
Yeah. Yeah, someday maybe I'll get, they call it the amateur expert, so I could start my own TV program.
Or we can start pirating channels and just be backyard pirates.
That's right. That would be
Put
pretty
a Jolly
bad.
Roger up on the fence. Get the shortwave and the CB out, hook those up, and pirate everybody in the neighborhood. They'll hear us instead of their television program. Well, you can't do that anymore. Everything's digital. It's not analog. But sure miss the good old days.
Yeah. Well, at any rate, all right. I'll let everybody sign off. Sorry, it was a
Sounds
little
good to
late.
me. T-Bone was coming in here with something other, but he's $1 late and a day short again. He did that last time.
Yeah, I don't know where he went to.
All right, I'm going to remove everybody. I'm going to remove my screen. It's just you and me.
All right.
Yeah, thanks everybody for showing up and putting up with us. It's about 10 till 2200 Denver time. First day of September 2022.
Oh, boy. At any rate. All
From
right.
the guys in American
brother.
Legionnaire, TCG Global. Everybody have a good night.
We'll chat later.
Yes, sir. See you next time.
Intrepid out.
Out.